Welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're going to be cracking open the book of Proverbs.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, we're going to be focusing on the first few chapters.
Okay.
And, this isn't going to be about dusty old rules.
Right.
We're going to look for how these ancient insights, uh, you know, surprisingly can apply to your life in the modern world.
It's amazing how relevant they still are after all this time.
Thousands of years.
The human condition really hasn't changed all that much.
Yeah, and the challenges and the opportunities.
Exactly.
Yeah. So right from the start, Proverbs emphasizes the value of knowledge and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more than just, knowing stuff.
Yeah.
Proverbs 1.4
Okay.
talks about gaining subtlety, the ability to see the nuances of situations,
Right.
and wise counsels, being able to give and receive good advice.
I see.
It's like Proverbs is acknowledging that we live in a world overflowing with information. We're constantly bombarded with news, opinions, advice. How do you sift through it all?
You have to be so discerning,
Yeah, it's tough.
especially in the age of the internet.
And that's where I get tripped up. I mean, how many times have you read a headline and thought, wait, is that even true?
All the time. It's overwhelming.
Yeah,
But it seems like Proverbs is speaking directly to that struggle.
it really does.
Yeah.
And this leads us to one of the most intriguing and perhaps initially puzzling verses.
Okay.
Proverbs 1.7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge.
Okay.
I'll admit, that one always makes me pause. It sounds a little intimidating, right?
It does have a certain weight to it.
Like, am I supposed to be terrified?
Yeah. It's a phrase that requires some unpacking.
Right.
One way to interpret it is not as literal fear, but as a deep respect for something bigger than yourself,
Okay.
acknowledging that there are principles or truths that guide the universe.
So maybe it's more about humility,
I think that's a really good way to put it.
like recognizing you don't have all the answers and being open to learning from sources beyond your own limited perspective.
And isn't that relevant today more than ever?
Yeah.
Think about social media, where everyone seems to be an expert, shouting their opinions. Proverbs reminds us to approach knowledge with humility,
Right.
realizing there's always more to learn.
It's like a reminder to be a student of life, always curious, always seeking wisdom from different sources.
Exactly. And that leads us to another powerful image in Proverbs, the warning against bad company and the allure of quick riches. We see this in verses 10 through 19.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a scene straight out of a crime drama,
It is.
with shady characters luring someone into a life of trouble.
It's so vivid. It feels almost cinematic, right?
Yeah,
But hasn't everyone at some point faced a similar choice?
of course.
Even if it wasn't quite as dramatic?
Yeah.
That pressure to compromise your values for what seems like an easy win.
And Proverbs cuts right through that illusion. It's like the ancient world had its own version of get-rich-quick schemes
Wow.
and social media influencers pushing bad ideas.
It's so true.
The message resonates. Be discerning about who you listen to, what influences you allow into your life.
It's a reminder that the path to wisdom is often about resisting those shiny distractions that promise a shortcut,
Right.
but ultimately lead you astray.
Exactly. And speaking of paths, Proverbs 1.2023 introduces this striking image of wisdom,
Okay.
personified as a voice crying out in the streets, pleading with people to listen.
It's almost heartbreaking.
It is.
Like, wisdom is readily available, but people are too caught up in their own lives to hear it. I wonder, have you, listener, ever felt like that?
Yeah, it's easy to get distracted.
Where you knew the right thing to do, but just didn't? What happened?
We've all been there.
It highlights that tension we all face, the struggle between knowledge and ignorance, between choosing what's easy and what's right. And Proverbs doesn't shy away from the consequences of ignoring wisdom, does it?
No, it definitely does not.
Okay. Proverbs 1.2433 gets pretty intense, laying out the results of rejecting wisdom. Things like calamity, fear, even destruction. It's powerful stuff.
It's a wake-up call.
It is.
What's fascinating here is that it's not framed as punishment from a divine being. It's more like a natural consequence,
Oh,
a
interesting.
cause and effect relationship, like the principle of sowing and reaping.
Right.
If you plant bad seeds, you're not going to get a good harvest. If you choose to ignore wisdom, you're likely to experience negative outcomes.
It's a powerful metaphor that speaks to the idea that our choices have consequences,
Exactly.
both good and bad. And that brings us to this crucial question. How do we actually find and embrace wisdom? Luckily, Proverbs doesn't just warn us about the dangers of ignoring it. It offers guidance on how to find it.
Right.
And that's where chapters 2 and 3 come in.
Yeah, those are good ones.
Yeah.
Proverbs 2.4 uses this vivid imagery of seeking wisdom like you would search for silver or hidden treasures.
Oh, wow.
It requires effort, diligence, a willingness to dig deep.
It's like you have to be an active participant in your own pursuit of wisdom. And you know what? Just by being here, engaging in this deep dive, you're already taking a step in that direction. You're seeking knowledge. You're exploring different perspectives. You're on the right track.
Absolutely. And this connects to our modern emphasis on lifelong learning, on constantly seeking to expand our understanding. But Proverbs takes it a step further.
Oh, tell me more. What does Proverbs have to say about this lifelong learning idea?
Well, Proverbs 3.1318 describes wisdom as not just beneficial, but beautiful. It's a source of pleasantness and peace. It's not just about gaining knowledge to get ahead, but about enriching your life with something that brings joy and fulfillment.
That's such a beautiful way to think about it. Wisdom isn't just a tool for success. It's a path to a more meaningful and fulfilling life.
Precisely. And I think that's something we often lose sight of in our fast-paced, achievement-oriented world.
It is. Okay, so we know wisdom is valuable, but how do we actually apply it in our daily lives? Because Proverbs doesn't just stop at these grand pronouncements about the importance of wisdom. It actually gets down to the nitty-gritty, offering specific advice for navigating everyday situations.
Right. Chapters 3 and 4 are full of practical advice,
Okay.
covering everything from relationships and finances to character development. There are gems like, don't withhold good from those to whom it is due, 3.27. Don't envy the oppressor, 3.31. And above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it, 4.23.
Some of these almost feel counterintuitive in our competitive lookout for number one world.
I know, right?
Like, don't envy the oppressor.
Yeah.
What does that even mean in a modern context?
It's so thought-provoking.
Yeah.
They challenge conventional thinking. They urge us to look beyond the surface and consider a different way of being in the world.
It's like Proverbs is saying, hey, the world might tell you to be ruthless and cutthroat to get ahead, but true fulfillment comes from a different place.
Exactly. It's about prioritizing integrity, generosity, and self-awareness, even when it seems like everyone else is playing a different game.
And then we get to Proverbs 5, and things take a bit of a dramatic turn.
Oh.
We encounter the metaphor of the strange woman, which can feel a little intense.
Oh, I see what I mean.
Yeah. What's your take on this, expert?
It's a powerful image, and I think it's important to remember that it's not just about literal infidelity. The strange woman can represent any alluring distraction
Okay.
that pulls us away from what's truly valuable in life.
Like what?
It could be anything from unhealthy addictions to those shiny objects that promise happiness but ultimately leave us feeling empty.
Like those late-night online shopping sprees you regret in the morning.
Exactly.
Oh, man. It's about recognizing those things that tempt us,
Right.
that pull us away from our goals, our values, our commitments.
And Proverbs 5.1519 contrasts this with the wife of your youth, symbolizing true, lasting connection. It's about finding fulfillment in genuine relationships, in building something meaningful and enduring, rather than chasing after fleeting pleasures.
So, listener, as we delve deeper into these themes, I challenge you to think about what your strange women are. What are the things in your life that tempt you to stray from the path of wisdom, from your true north? This is where it gets really personal.
Yeah, it's so easy to just get swept away in just everyday life and forget what matters.
Mm-hmm.
But Proverbs really challenges us to resist all that stuff,
It does.
and stay on track.
Yeah, and what's so cool is that it doesn't just lay down the law. It's,
Right.
It's woven together with these incredible metaphors and poetic language.
It's true.
It makes it so relatable, even after thousands of years.
It does. It feels very human.
It does.
It's not just a rule book. It's like an insightful tapestry of advice.
I love that. Thinking back to that whole fear of the Lord thing,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's about recognizing there's something bigger than us,
I think that's a really good point.
like beyond our own desires and all that.
Yeah, and that something bigger can be whatever,
Right.
depending on your beliefs.
Yeah.
It could be God or some guiding principle or
Yeah.
the wisdom of the ages,
It's like realizing we're a part of something larger,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
than just our own little experiences.
And that our lives have meaning,
Yeah,
a purpose beyond just our daily grind.
absolutely. And I think that's what makes Proverbs so, timeless
Yeah,
and universal.
it's true.
It speaks to everyone.
It does. It speaks to that human search for meaning,
Yes.
that longing to live a life that's both fulfilling and significant.
whether you're facing challenges in your relationships or career or just like
Yeah.
trying to find your place in the world,
Yeah.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
the wisdom in Proverbs can offer valuable insights.
It's like a
It
conversation
is.
across time,
I love that.
with these wise voices from the past guiding us on our own modern journeys.
So as we keep going, in this deep dive,
Yeah.
what are some key takeaways that you hope listeners will like glean from these chapters?
I think, first and foremost,
Yeah.
I hope they're inspired to actually go after wisdom. It's not something that just happens to you.
Yeah.
You got to seek it out.
Yeah.
Be curious. Be open-minded.
Right.
Be willing to push yourself and question your assumptions.
Absolutely. And to remember that wisdom isn't just about getting knowledge. It's about using it
Yes.
to live a better life,
To live a more meaningful and fulfilling life.
Exactly.
It's about aligning your choices with your values, building relationships based on trust, and becoming the best version of yourself.
Proverbs also says, we got to be careful about who we let influence us.
Oh,
Like choose good friends and all that and resist distractions.
those strange women we talked about.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It's about recognizing those temptations that lead us astray.
And it's so important to remember we don't have to do this alone.
You're so right.
Proverbs encourages us to get advice from people,
Yeah.
to learn from those older and wiser, and be open to different perspectives.
It's not a solo mission.
Right.
We need each other.
Yeah.
We grow together.
I do.
We share our experiences and support each other along the way.
Thinking about Proverbs 5 again and temptation,
Mm-hmm.
it seems to say that real fulfillment comes from resisting those quick thrills
Oh, yeah.
and focusing on building something that lasts.
That's such a good point. That contrast between the strained woman and the wife of your youth really highlights that idea.
It does.
It's not about denying yourself joy.
Right.
It's about making choices that lead to long-term happiness.
So it's about really investing in relationships
Mm-hmm.
and pursuing passions. Those things that really make you tick.
Yeah, things that light you up.
Yes. And contributing to something larger than yourself.
Yes.
Those are the things that really bring that deep satisfaction.
Absolutely.
So listener, as you think about all this, what really hits home for you?
Yeah, what resonates?
Where are you seeking wisdom in your life?
Where are you tempted?
Yeah, or where are you trying to build something,
That's meaningful.
that really matters?
Yeah.
And how can these ancient proverbs help you on your journey?
You're not alone in this. We're all on this journey together.
We are.
Learning, growing, trying to live a life that's full of meaning and purpose.
And speaking of journeys, Proverbs also has some practical advice.
Yes, it does.
About specific parts of life, like money relationships and even personal growth.
Right.
So let's get into some of those in the next part of our deep dive. It's really interesting how Proverbs doesn't sugarcoat things. It acknowledges that life can be a struggle.
Right. It's not all sunshine and roses. It's so refreshing. It's not like some self-help book that pretends everything is easy.
It's like they knew back then that we'd still be dealing with the same stuff today.
I know. It's like they had a time machine or something.
It's pretty wild. It makes you feel less alone, right?
Totally.
It's like we're all in this together.
Exactly. It's a shared human experience. We've been asking the same questions for centuries.
Like, what's it all about?
Yeah, what's the meaning of life? How do we live a good life?
Exactly. And Proverbs reminds us that we're not the first ones to ask these questions.
We're part of a long line of wisdom seekers.
I love that image.
Yeah.
Like we're all connected through time.
Absolutely. And it's not just about our own individual search for wisdom.
Right.
It's about helping each other along the way.
Yeah. Like Proverbs talks about seeking advice, learning from older generations.
Being open to different ideas.
Yeah, like wisdom isn't just a solo mission.
It takes a village.
It does, and that brings us to some of the practical stuff in Proverbs.
Okay.
Especially chapters 3 and 4.
Yeah, those are full of nuggets.
Like about money and relationship.
How to be a better person.
Yeah, there's one that always sticks with me. Go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider its ways and be wise. Proverbs 6.6 ants. Who knew they had so much to teach us?
I know, it's such a funny image.
It is, but it's about being prepared and working hard.
Just like ants gathering food for the winter.
There's also some really good advice about dealing with conflict,
Oh, yeah, that's so important.
A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Proverbs 15.1. Like,
Wow.
especially these days.
Right, with all that online drama,
It's a good reminder to choose kindness over anger.
our words have so much power.
And Proverbs also talks a lot about honesty and integrity.
Yeah, being a good person.
Better is a little with righteousness than great revenues with injustice. Proverbs 16:8.
Yeah.
So true wealth isn't about money. It's about living right.
Living in line with your values.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Mhm.
what's the one thing you'd want our listeners to take away
That's a good question.
from all this wisdom? I think it's to never stop seeking wisdom.
That's good.
Be curious, stay open to new ideas,
Mhm.
and learn from your mistakes.
Absolutely. It's a lifelong journey.
It is.
And listener, you're not alone on this path.
You got this.
Find people who inspire you, who challenge you, who support you.
Yeah.
Share your own wisdom with others
Exactly.
and keep learning from them.
The journey never really ends.
And remember, it's not about being perfect.
No, it's about progress
It's about living a life with meaning and connection.
and purpose.
Keep seeking, keep learning, keep growing,
Until next time.
keep diving deep.
Welcome to our deep dive into the book of Proverbs.
Oh, Proverbs.
Yeah, specifically chapters 5 through 10.
Okay.
We're really going deep on this one.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I'm excited
Oh, go unpack.
to see what we find. Now, these chapters are basically a collection of ancient sayings and teachings, but don't let that fool ya.
Right.
They're packed with practical advice for
Yeah.
navigating the choices we face every single day.
Well, and what's fascinating is how Proverbs presents these teachings,
Okay.
often by contrasting wisdom and folly.
Interesting.
It's like holding up this mirror
Oh, wow. Yeah.
to human nature,
Yes.
showing us the potential consequences
Mhm.
of our actions.
So it's not just about what TO do, but also understanding the pitfalls of making the wrong choices.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Proverbs doesn't shy away from tackling
Yeah.
some pretty universal themes.
Mhm.
Temptation, work ethic, honesty,
Mm-hmm.
you name it.
Yeah.
It's all about helping us live
Yeah.
a more fulfilling and meaningful life,
Mhm.
even thousands of years
Yeah.
after these words were written.
All right. Well, let's jump right in.
Okay.
Starting with chapters 5 through 7,
Right.
which seem to really zero in on temptation.
Okay.
And the imagery here is
Yeah.
anything be a tease subtle.
Right.
It's like Proverbs is grabbing us by the shoulders and saying, pay attention.
Right.
Wake up.
Like, pay attention.
Right.
Take the metaphor of the strange woman, for example.
Okay.
Proverbs compares her lure to honey and oil.
Okay.
Things that are sweet and smooth at first,
Mm.
but ultimately lead to bitterness and destruction.
Wow.
Like,
It's so clever, the way it plays on our senses.
yeah,
I mean, who doesn't love the taste of honey?
right.
But then it flips the script
Yeah.
and shows us the harsh reality of that path.
Mm.
It's a powerful wake-up call.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not just a warning
Okay.
about romantic infidelity.
Right.
Think about it.
Okay.
How often do we find ourselves tempted by something
Yeah.
that seems appealing on the surface, even if we know deep down
Uh-huh.
it might not be the best choice?
All the time.
Right.
Right.
Like that urge to hit the snooze button
Oh, yeah.
instead of getting up for that early morning workout,
Totally.
even though you know you'll feel better if you do it.
Exactly.
Or maybe it's like that tempting job offer that promises more money,
Mm-hmm.
but requires you to sacrifice your values.
Right.
Yeah.
Proverbs is urging us
Yeah.
to look beyond that immediate gratification
Mm-hmm.
and consider the long-term consequences.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful.
It's about developing that crucial ability
Yeah.
to discern
Right.
between what seems good and
Right.
what truly is good.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
It's almost like Proverbs is saying,
Yeah.
hey, you have a choice to make here.
Right.
Do you want the fleeting sweetness
Mm.
or the lasting bitterness?
Yeah.
It's making us confront those decisions head on.
And it does this through some powerful literary techniques.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Notice the frequent use of parallelism,
Okay.
where similar phrases are repeated
Right.
to create a sense of rhythm and emphasis.
Okay.
Like in chapter 5, verse 3, it says, "For the lips of a forbidden woman drip honey,
Okay.
and her speech is smoother than oil."
Yeah.
The repetition of those sensory words,
Yeah.
honey, smooth, oil,
Mm-hmm.
really drives home the allure of temptation.
Yeah. I see that.
And then
Yeah.
immediately contrast that with verse 4.
Right.
But in the end, she is bitter as wormwood,
Yeah.
sharp as a two-edged sword.
Right.
That parallel structure
Yeah,
makes the contrast even more stark.
it does.
Right?
Yeah.
Proverbs is a masterclass
Wow.
in using language to create a lasting impact.
Yeah, that's so true.
Speaking of impact,
Okay.
Chapter 6 shifts gears a bit
Right.
and introduces the famous example of the ant.
I love that one.
What I love about this
Yeah.
is how it takes something so small
Mm-hmm.
and seemingly insignificant,
Okay.
an ant,
Right.
and turns it
Yeah.
into this powerful lesson in diligence and preparation.
Yeah. It's brilliant.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even without a boss or a schedule,
Mm-hmm.
the ant diligently works to prepare for the future.
Yeah.
Proverbs uses this simple image
Yeah.
to challenge us.
Right.
What are we doing today to prepare for tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
Are we being proactive?
Yeah.
Or are we waiting for things to happen to us?
That's such a good question.
Right.
It's so easy to get caught up
Yeah.
in the day-to-day and
Yeah.
forget about the bigger picture.
Right.
But Proverbs is reminding us
Yeah.
that the small, consistent actions we take today
Right.
can have a huge impact on our future.
Think about it in practical terms.
Okay.
What are the ants we might be overlooking?
Okay.
It could be something as simple as setting aside a small amount of money each month
Right.
for an emergency fund.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's dedicating 30 minutes a day
All right.
to learning a new skill.
Yeah.
These seemingly small actions
Mm-hmm.
done consistently over time
Right.
can build a solid foundation for the future.
It's like Proverbs is giving us a blueprint
Yes.
for building a secure and fulfilling life.
I like that.
But then it takes a darker turn,
Yeah.
warning us about the consequences of ignoring those small, consistent actions.
Right.
It compares poverty approaching like a thief
Right.
and want like an armed man.
It's not meant to scare us,
Right.
but to wake us up from complacency.
Yeah.
It's saying, hey, if you don't take the time to prepare now,
Mm-hmm.
you might find yourself facing
Yeah.
some serious consequences down the road.
And speaking of consequences,
Right.
chapter 6 gets really specific
Yes.
about what the Lord considers an abomination.
And it's interesting to see how these ancient principles still resonate with us today.
Yeah.
It's not just a list of rules.
Mm-hmm.
It's a framework for building a just and ethical society
Right.
based on truthfulness,
Mm-hmm.
integrity,
Mm-hmm.
and respect for others.
Okay, so...
It even gets into the nitty-gritty details,
Oh, really?
like the naughty person
Okay.
who winks with their eyes,
Mm-hmm.
speaks with their feet,
Interesting.
and sows discord among brothers.
Oh.
Remember, this was written in a time when nonverbal communication
Yeah.
played a huge role in social interactions.
Right.
Even subtle gestures and facial expressions
Right.
could convey volumes.
Yeah.
And Proverbs is highlighting how these seemingly small things
Okay.
can reveal a person's true character.
That's such a great point.
It's a reminder that even today,
Yeah.
we're constantly communicating,
Mm-hmm.
whether we realize it or not.
Yeah.
Our body language,
Right.
our tone of voice,
Mm-hmm.
even our silence, it all sends a message.
That's true.
And Proverbs is challenging us to be mindful
Yeah.
of how we're presenting ourselves to the world.
Yeah. Like,
Uh,
think about it.
Think about it in the context
Yeah.
of online interactions.
Mm-hmm.
We might not be physically winking or
Right.
speaking with our feet,
Yeah.
but a snarky comment
Yeah.
or a misleading post
Uh-huh.
can have the same effect,
Right.
sowing discord
Mm-hmm.
and damaging relationships.
Yeah.
It's like Proverbs is saying,
Hey.
hey, pay attention to those subtle cues,
Mm.
both in yourself and in others.
Yeah.
They can tell you a lot about a person's intentions
Okay.
and their true character.
That's a good one.
And that brings us to a crucial question.
All right.
How do we develop that discernment,
Mm.
that ability to read between the lines
Yeah.
and see through those deceptive facades?
Right.
Because Proverbs isn't just about pointing out the bad.
Right.
It's also about guiding us
Okay.
toward the good.
And that's where the concept of wisdom
Yes.
really takes center stage.
Yeah.
It's like Proverbs is offering us a lifeline,
Mhm.
a path
Right.
toward living a life of purpose and fulfillment.
I like that.
But first, we have to be willing to listen.
Exactly. Proverbs doesn't just tell us like what to do and what not to do.
Right.
It goes deeper.
Okay.
It connects those actions to something much larger.
So it's not just a moral code,
Yeah.
but like a way of understanding our place in the world.
Exactly. Proverbs 10, for example,
Mm-hmm.
seamlessly blends these practical observations about human behavior
Okay.
with spiritual insights.
Interesting.
You see this in verses like,
Yeah.
the blessing of the Lord brings wealth without painful toil for it.
Okay.
It's suggesting that true prosperity isn't just about like financial abundance,
Right.
but also about aligning ourselves with a higher purpose.
That makes me think about
Yeah.
how often we chase after things
Yeah.
that we think will make us happy,
Yeah.
but we end up feeling empty.
Right.
Like, what if true wealth is more about living in a way that's consistent with our values?
It's a powerful idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Proverbs is reminding us
Yeah.
that lasting fulfillment comes from living a life of integrity,
Okay.
generosity, and kindness,
Right.
not just from accumulating possessions.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
And Proverbs isn't afraid to tackle
Okay.
the less than pleasant
Yeah.
aspects of human nature either,
Right.
like dishonesty.
Uh-huh.
There's that striking proverb,
Okay.
the tongue of the righteous is choice silver, but the heart of the wicked is of little value.
Wow.
It's a stark contrast between genuine, heartfelt communication
Right.
and words that are used to manipulate or deceive.
It's so true.
Think about how this applies to our lives today,
Okay.
especially in the digital age,
Yeah.
where words can spread so quickly
Right.
and have such a wide-reaching impact.
It's a good reminder that we
Mhm.
have a responsibility to use our words carefully and thoughtfully, both online and offline.
Exactly.
And that leads to another important theme, the
Okay.
importance of controlling our tempers.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Proverbs 10.2 says,
Right.
hatred stirs up conflict, but love covers over all wrongs.
It's acknowledging that everyone makes mistakes,
Right?
but choosing to respond with forgiveness and understanding
Yeah.
is ultimately the more powerful and fulfilling path.
It makes me think about
Yeah.
how easy it is to get caught up in anger and resentment,
Oh, yeah.
especially when we feel like we've been wronged.
Right.
But Proverbs is reminding us that holding on to that negativity
Mhm.
only hurts us in the end.
It's about breaking the cycle of negativity
Yeah.
and choosing a different path,
Okay.
one that leads to healing and reconciliation.
Okay, so we've seen how Proverbs connects wisdom
Yeah.
with diligence,
Mm-hmm.
honesty,
Right.
and even emotional regulation.
Yeah.
But it also seems to place a high value
Yeah.
on seeking knowledge and understanding, right? There's that proverb
Okay.
that says,
Mm-hmm.
wise people store up knowledge, but the mouth of a fool invites ruin.
Makes you think about
Right.
the importance of lifelong learning
Yeah.
and being
Mm.
open to new perspectives.
That's true.
In today's world,
Mm-hmm.
with information so readily available,
Right.
it's more important than ever to be discerning
Yeah.
about what we allow into our minds
Okay.
and how we process that information.
So it's not just about like consuming information,
Right.
but also about critically evaluating it,
Yes.
understanding its implications, and
Mm.
applying it in a way
Right.
that benefits ourselves and others.
You hit the nail on the head.
It's like,
It's like having a toolbox
right?
full of tools.
Yeah.
Knowledge is powerful,
Right.
but it's only useful if you know how to use it.
That's true.
And speaking of tools,
Okay.
Proverbs seems to emphasize
Yeah.
the importance of planning and preparation.
Right.
But it also acknowledges that we're not always in control of the outcome.
Right.
Remember that proverb
Okay.
about the diligent leading to abundance.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone who is hasty coming to poverty.
Yeah.
It's like a reminder
Okay.
that while hard work and careful planning
Yeah.
are essential,
Right.
there's also an element of chance and uncertainty in life.
That's so true.
It's about finding that balance
Okay.
between taking responsibility for our actions
Mhm.
and acknowledging that there are forces beyond our control.
Yeah.
We need to be prepared
Right.
to adapt and adjust our course
Uh-huh.
when unexpected challenges arise.
It's almost like Proverbs is saying,
Yeah,
do your best, plan wisely,
yeah.
but also be prepared for the unexpected.
Hmm.
Don't be so rigid that you can't bend with the wind.
Exactly.
And that leads to another key point,
Okay.
the importance of maintaining a hopeful outlook,
Oh, yeah.
even when things don't go as planned.
Right.
Remember the proverb, the prospect of the righteous is joy, but the hopes of the wicked come to nothing.
It's a reminder that true joy doesn't come from external circumstances,
Right.
but from living in alignment with our values
Yeah.
and a sense of purpose.
It's about trusting that even when we face setbacks or disappointments,
Yes.
there's a bigger picture unfolding,
Mm-hmm.
and we can choose to approach those challenges with
Right.
hope and resilience.
You got it.
Oh.
Proverbs reminds us
Yeah.
that we have a choice in how we respond
Right.
to the ups and downs of life.
Mm-hmm.
We can choose to dwell in negativity and fear,
Yeah.
or we can choose to focus on the good
Uh-huh.
and maintain a hopeful outlook.
Okay, so far we've talked about actions,
Yeah.
attitudes, and perspectives.
Right.
But Proverbs also seems to place a lot of emphasis on our words, right? It does. There's that proverb about how
Mhm.
when words are many, transgression is not lacking, but whoever restrains his lips is prudent.
It's highlighting the power
Right.
of thoughtful communication
Mm,
and the dangers of speaking impulsively or carelessly.
right.
Words have the power
Yeah.
to build up or tear down,
Mm-hmm.
to heal or to wound.
It's like that saying, think before you speak.
Right.
But Proverbs takes it a step further,
Yeah.
suggesting that sometimes
Yeah.
the wisest thing to do is to remain silent.
Yes.
Wow.
There's wisdom in knowing when to listen,
Right?
to observe,
Mm.
and to allow others to speak their truth.
It's about being mindful of the impact our
Mhm.
words have on others.
Right.
And choosing to speak in a way that promotes understanding, compassion, and respect.
And I love how Proverbs connects wisdom,
Okay.
not just with our words and actions,
Mm-hmm.
but also with our inner state of being.
Right.
For example,
Yeah.
a heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones.
That's such a powerful image.
It emphasizes
Yeah.
the connection between our mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Harboring negative emotions like jealousy and resentment
Mm-hmm.
can take a toll
Yeah.
on our health and well-being.
Yeah.
It's like a poison that slowly eats away at us.
Makes you realize how important it is
Yeah,
to cultivate a mindset of gratitude and contentment,
absolutely.
focusing on the good in our lives rather than dwelling on what we lack.
Exactly.
And that leads to another key theme,
Okay.
the importance of humility
Mm.
and being open to correction.
Yes.
Proverbs 12.1 says,
Okay.
whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but whoever hates correction is stupid.
It's not about being punished,
Right.
but about recognizing that we all have blind spots
Yeah.
and that being willing to learn from our mistakes is essential for growth.
It's about embracing a growth mindset,
Yeah.
acknowledging that we're all works in progress
Mm-hmm.
and that there's always room for improvement.
Precisely.
And that brings us to a
I-
concept that's woven throughout Proverbs, the
There.
fear of the Lord.
It's often mentioned alongside wisdom,
Okay.
but what does it really mean?
Right.
It sounds a bit intimidating
It does. Yeah.
at first glance.
You're right. It does sound kind of intense.
Yeah.
What is Proverbs trying to tell us
Yeah.
about this idea of fearing the Lord?
Yeah, it's understandable why that phrase might raise an eyebrow,
Right.
but think of it less about like trembling in terror
Okay.
and more about having a deep reverence
Right.
for something much greater than yourself.
So more like awe and respect,
Yeah.
recognizing that there's like a moral order to the universe.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
It's about acknowledging that our actions have consequences
Right.
and striving to live in a way
Yeah.
that's aligned with what's good and right.
It makes me think about the idea of karma. You
Yeah.
know, like
Yep.
how the energy we put out into the world tends to come back to us.
That's a great connection.
Yeah.
And Proverbs emphasizes that this alignment with a higher purpose,
Okay.
this fear of the Lord, is actually a source of strength and protection.
Interesting.
There's a verse that says, the fear of the Lord is a fountain of life,
Hell yeah.
turning a person from the snares of death. It's like having a compass
Oh, yeah.
that guides you through the storms of life.
Yeah, it ties back to the idea of wisdom as a guiding light.
Exactly,
Yeah.
leading us away from danger and toward a more fulfilling life.
Right. And it brings us to...
And it brings us
Yeah.
to one of the most fascinating aspects of Proverbs,
Okay.
the way it presents these profound truths
Yeah.
in such a concise and memorable way.
Right.
Each proverb is like a little nugget of wisdom
Yeah.
that you can carry with you.
It's like having a pocket guide
Yeah,
to navigating life's challenges.
exactly.
And what I find really effective is how Proverbs uses contrast
Mhm.
to drive its points home.
Right.
It constantly juxtaposes wisdom and folly,
Yeah.
righteousness and wickedness,
Uh-huh.
diligence and laziness.
It's brilliant. It's like holding up a mirror and saying,
Right.
here are two paths. Choose wisely.
Wow.
By highlighting those contrasts,
Yeah.
Proverbs helps us to see
Okay.
the potential consequences of our choices more clearly.
So as we wrap up our deep dive
Yeah.
into Proverbs chapters 5 through 10,
Mm-hmm.
what are some key takeaways
Oh, that's a good question.
you hope our listener will walk away with?
First and foremost,
Okay.
I think it's the importance of recognizing
Mhm.
that we have the power to choose.
Okay.
Proverbs emphasizes that every decision we make,
Right.
no matter how small,
Uh-huh.
has consequences,
Right.
both for ourselves
Yeah.
and for those around us.
It's like that butterfly effect.
Yes,
Even the smallest actions can have ripple effects that extend far beyond ourselves.
exactly.
Yeah.
And Proverbs urges us to choose wisely,
Okay.
to consider the long-term impact of our actions,
Mhm.
and to align ourselves with what's good, true, and right.
Okay.
It's about living with intention, recognizing that we are the architects of our own lives.
We're not just passive passengers,
Right.
but active creators of our own destiny.
Precisely.
And that leads to the second key takeaway,
Okay.
the importance of actively seeking wisdom.
Proverbs presents wisdom not as something we're born with,
Yeah.
but as something we must pursue throughout our lives.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about being humble,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that we don't have all the answers,
Right.
and being willing to learn from others,
Okay.
from our experiences,
Yeah.
and from the world around us.
It's about embracing a growth mindset.
Exactly.
And finally, I think Proverbs reminds us that living a wise life
Yeah.
isn't just about following rules or
Yeah.
avoiding mistakes.
No.
It's about cultivating certain virtues and character traits.
Yes.
Diligence, honesty, integrity, compassion, self-control.
These qualities lead to a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
It's about becoming the best versions of ourselves.
You nailed it.
And that's a journey worth embarking on.
It is.
So to leave our listener with a final thought-provoking question,
Okay.
if you could sit down with wisdom personified,
Oh, wow.
what would you ask?
Now that's a question that could spark a whole other deep dive. I think I'd ask,
Yeah.
what is the one piece of advice you wish everyone knew,
Okay.
but most people ignore?
Ooh.
I have a feeling that answer could change our lives.
It certainly would.
Yeah.
And on that note,
Yep.
we encourage you to continue exploring the wisdom of Proverbs for yourself.
Yeah.
Crack open a copy, read a chapter, discuss it with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
You might be surprised by the insights you uncover
Right.
and how they can apply to your life today.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Absolutely.
Until next time. Hey there, and welcome back. We're diving deep into some ancient wisdom today. Ready?
Always.
We're talking Proverbs chapters 10 through 15 from the King James Version. It's amazing how some of these Proverbs, even though they were written like thousands of years ago,
Yeah.
still feel so relevant today.
It's true. It's fascinating, isn't it?
Right.
The language might feel a little, well, old-fashioned sometimes.
Right? But the ideas underneath, wow, those are surprisingly relatable.
Absolutely.
Like, just the other day I was reading Proverbs 10.1.
Okay.
A wise son maketh a glad father, but a foolish son is the heaviness of his mother. It got me thinking, about all the choices we make.
Yeah.
And how those choices, they don't just affect us. They have
Right.
like a ripple effect
Right.
on everyone around us.
Absolutely.
And
That's
especially our families.
totally.
And that's actually one of the big themes that I
Yeah.
noticed throughout these chapters
Yeah.
is this contrast between paths in life, between living a life guided by wisdom and integrity versus one that's, well, not so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's so clearly laid out in Proverbs 10.25, as the whirlwind passeth, so is the wicked no more, but the righteous is an everlasting foundation.
It's powerful imagery.
Right. It is. It really is. It's like this idea that building your life on solid principles
Yeah.
creates something that lasts.
Yes. And it's not about being, quote unquote, good or bad
Right.
in some
Yeah.
oversimplified way.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that choices have consequences
Right.
and building your life on, well, something fleeting,
Yeah.
like chasing after quick wins or always looking for shortcuts,
Right.
might not lead to that long-term stability
Yeah.
that I think deep down we're all looking for.
I think so.
It's a,
Yeah.
it makes me think about building a career, for instance.
Oh, interesting.
It's so tempting to take those shortcuts,
Right.
but ultimately, if you really think about it,
Uh-huh.
building your success on ethical principles,
Yes.
that seems like a much stronger foundation in the long run. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you know the saying, right?
What's that?
Building a house on sand
Oh, yeah.
versus building it on solid rock.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, which one do you think is going to be able to withstand the storms of life?
Right. Good point. Okay, so we've got this idea of a righteous path,
Right?
which sounds a lot like what? Living with integrity and purpose?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
But what about the flip side then? What does it even mean to be wicked
Hmm.
in a modern context? Is it really just, doing bad things all the time?
Well, I think it's a little more nuanced than that.
Okay.
I think it's about being driven by self-interest,
Okay.
maybe greed
Right.
or a lack of concern for other people.
There.
It's about choosing the easy way out, even when it means compromising your values.
So maybe it's less about dramatic, evil acts
Uh-huh.
and more about, I don't know, those everyday choices
Yeah.
where we're just constantly prioritizing our own needs
Right.
above everyone else's.
Precisely. And that actually brings us to another major theme that we see throughout these chapters.
Okay, what's that?
Wisdom versus folly.
Oh, yeah, I noticed that. There are so many proverbs in here about the importance of seeking knowledge
Yes.
and making wise choices.
Yes.
There's one that really struck me. Proverbs 13.14. The law of the wise is a fountain of life, to depart from the snares of death.
Powerful, isn't it?
It is. It makes wisdom sound so vital,
It is vital.
like something that can literally save you from danger.
And, in ancient times, knowledge really was a matter of survival. Knowing which plants were safe to eat or how to navigate by the stars, how to build shelter. These were essential skills.
Right.
And in a way, it's still true today, isn't it?
Absolutely, just on a different level.
Yeah. Yeah. So instead of poisonous plants, maybe we need wisdom to avoid, I don't know, toxic relationships or bad financial decisions.
Exactly. What are some of the snares of death that you encounter in your own life? That's a good question. I guess maybe rushing into decisions without thinking them through.
Okay.
Or maybe getting caught up in, the comparison game on social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe even just, I don't know, not taking care of my health because I'm too busy. All those things.
Those are great examples.
Yeah.
And Proverbs is all about giving us the tools we need to navigate those snares.
That's a great way to put it.
It's like having a wise mentor whispering in your ear, hey, slow down. Think this through. There might be a better way.
I love that. It's
And-
like ancient life hacks for modern problems.
I like that. I like that.
And speaking of modern problems, one thing that really struck me
Yeah.
was how much these proverbs talk about communication. I mean, think about it. We live in a world where words are constantly flying around us.
Right.
Social media, texts, emails.
Constantly.
It's easy to forget the power they have.
It's true.
And back then, when written communication was much more limited,
Right.
spoken words carried even more weight, I imagine.
Absolutely. And Proverbs really emphasizes
Yeah.
the importance of using your words wisely.
Like in Proverbs 15.4, a wholesome tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness therein is a breach in the spirit.
Ooh, I like that one.
It makes you think twice about what you're posting online, doesn't it?
It does. And it reminds us that our words, they have a direct impact
Yeah.
on ourselves and on others. Think about it. Have you ever felt totally energized
Yeah.
and uplifted
Yeah.
after a conversation with someone who speaks kindly and truthfully?
Oh, totally. Like they just breathed life into you.
Exactly. And then on the flip side,
Yeah.
harsh or deceitful words, man, those can leave you feeling just drained and wounded.
Ugh,
It's like they create a breach in your spirit.
That's a powerful way to put it.
It really is.
It makes you realize, wow, you really do need to cultivate a wholesome tongue,
It's true.
both online and offline.
Absolutely. Now, before we move on, I'm curious, what are some of the modern day breaches in the spirit that you've noticed?
Yeah.
Especially related to how people communicate online.
That's an interesting question. I think sometimes, I don't know, just the constant negativity and criticism that you see online, it's really draining.
It can be.
It's like people forget there's another human being
How know we?
on the other side of the screen.
It's a great observation.
Yeah.
And it's a good reminder to,
Yeah.
just pause for a second
Yeah.
and consider the impact of our words
Right.
before we hit send or post.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about righteousness. We've talked about wisdom and the power of words.
Right?
But there's another big theme in these chapters that I'm really curious to unpack.
Okay, what's that?
Wealth and poverty.
Ooh, interesting.
And I gotta admit, some of these proverbs seem, I don't know, a bit confusing at first glance.
You're right. It's a complex topic.
Yeah.
And Proverbs doesn't offer some simple answer. It's not like, all rich people are bad or that poverty is inherently virtuous.
Yeah.
It's much more nuanced than that.
Okay.
Take Proverbs 10.4, for example.
Okay.
He becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich.
So that's saying that being lazy or careless, that can lead to poverty,
Right.
while diligence and hard work can lead to wealth.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have Proverbs 15.16.
Okay.
Better is little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble therewith.
Exactly. And that's where the nuance comes
Sure.
in.
Yeah.
Proverbs is acknowledging that wealth can be a good thing.
Right.
It's not the ultimate measure of success or happiness.
Hmm.
In fact, it can sometimes bring, a whole set of problems with it.
Right. So it's not about the amount of money you have. It's about how you get it
Right.
and what you do with it.
Exactly. It's about aligning your pursuit of wealth with your values and your principles.
Okay.
Recognizing that true riches are actually found in living a righteous life.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like, what's the point of having tons of money
Right.
if you're miserable or constantly stressed out?
Exactly. And that leads us to a really important question.
Okay, what's that?
What does true wealth mean to you?
Mm.
Is it about material possessions, status, security,
Ooh, that's a good one.
or is it about something more?
It's definitely making me think. I think for me, true wealth is about having strong relationships,
Okay.
a sense of purpose,
All right.
and the ability to make a positive impact on the world.
Those are beautiful.
And those things aren't necessarily tied to money.
They're not. You're right. That's a beautiful definition.
Thanks.
And it aligns perfectly with what Proverbs is trying to teach us. True wealth is found in living a life of wisdom, righteousness, and integrity.
Wow. Okay, I'm already feeling like I need a break to process all this.
Me too.
There's so much to unpack in these chapters,
There is.
especially when it comes to, honesty, integrity, and how we deal with conflict. But that's for next time.
It is. There is a lot to explore. But before we jump into the next section,
Yeah.
is there anything from these first few chapters
Hmm.
that really resonated with you?
I'm really struck by this idea
Okay.
of building a life on a solid foundation. It makes me really want to, examine my own values, see if they're truly guiding my choices.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to be more intentional about seeking wisdom and knowledge
Yeah.
as I try to navigate life's challenges.
I think those are powerful takeaways.
Thanks.
It's a reminder that even though these proverbs are ancient, right,
Yeah,
they still offer incredibly relevant guidance
I do.
for our lives today.
Absolutely. Okay, so are you ready to dive into the next section of Proverbs?
Do it.
We're about to explore some fascinating insights
Okay.
on relationships both with others and with ourselves.
I'm ready to see what other gems of wisdom we can uncover. As we dig into chapters 11 through 13,
Okay.
I'm really struck by how much emphasis there is
Uh-huh.
on honesty and integrity.
Okay.
And it's not just about, telling the truth,
Right.
It's about living a life that's truly aligned with your values.
Yeah, it's like that whole idea of walking the talk.
Exactly.
Not just saying the right things, but actually living them out.
It's like, Proverbs 11.3 puts it this way.
Okay.
The integrity of the upright shall guide them, but the perverseness of transgressors shall destroy them.
Wow.
It's like a roadmap for life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Integrity, it guides you towards a fulfilling path,
Uh-huh.
but a lack of integrity, well, that can lead to self-destruction.
Makes you think about the long game. And it does. Like if you're constantly cutting corners
Right.
or being dishonest, eventually it catches up to you.
It always does.
It's like building a house of cards.
That's a great analogy. Integrity is the bedrock
Yeah.
of trust.
Hmm.
And speaking of trust,
Okay.
Proverbs has a lot to say about relationships too,
Okay.
especially within families.
Oh, yeah. There are some pretty intense verses in here
There are.
about family dynamics.
Yes.
Like Proverbs 11.29,
Okay.
he that troubleth his own house shall inherit the wind, and the fool shall be servant to the wise of heart.
Strong words, right?
It is. It kind of makes you think about the choices we make,
It does.
how they can really impact the people closest to us.
It's true. While the language might feel, a bit strong for us today,
Right.
I think the message underneath it,
Yeah.
it's really about trying to create a harmonious
Yeah.
and supportive home environment.
Yeah.
Recognizing that our actions, they have ripple effects,
Right.
especially within our families.
It reminds me of something my therapist always says.
Oh, what's that?
You can't control other people's behavior, but you can control how you respond to it.
That's good advice.
And I think it applies to family relationships, too.
Yeah.
You can't always choose your family,
Right.
but you can choose how you interact with them.
It's true. Now, we can't talk about family in Proverbs
Yeah.
without addressing that classic verse
Okay.
about a virtuous woman
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Proverbs 12.4.
Okay.
A virtuous woman is a crown to her husband,
Huh.
but she that maketh ashamed is as rottenness in his bones.
Okay, yeah, I was kind of wondering about that one.
It's a tough one, right?
It is. It's easy to read that through a modern lens and think, wait, what?
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah,
It's really important to consider the historical context here.
right.
But I think if we can look beyond the gender-specific language,
Okay.
there's a broader message here
Uh-huh.
about the qualities of a strong and capable person,
Hmm.
regardless of gender, really. It's about bringing honor, strength, and support
Right.
to those around you.
So it's less about a woman's specific role in a marriage and more about, I don't know, the impact of our character and actions
Yeah.
on all the people we're in relationships with.
Exactly. And I think the flip side of that,
Yeah, okay.
that foolish woman who brings shame,
Right.
that highlights the importance of self-awareness,
Right.
recognizing how our choices affect others.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we all have the potential
Uh-huh.
to build each other up
Yeah.
or tear each other down.
That's a powerful thought.
It is.
It's like, are we a source of strength and encouragement for the people in our lives?
Yeah,
Or are we bringing negativity and drama?
that's the quote.
And I think that's something we all need to reflect on.
We do. Now, it's not all doom and gloom when it comes to relationships.
Okay, good.
Proverbs also talks about the positive power
Yeah.
of connection.
I was just thinking about Proverbs 11.14,
Okay.
where no counsel is, the people fall, but in the multitude of counselors, there is safety.
I love that
It's
one.
like having a network of support, you know? People you can turn to for advice and guidance.
It's so important.
It is. And it's not just about having, like, tons of friends.
Right.
It's about surrounding yourself with wise and trustworthy people.
It's about quality over quantity.
Yes. People who will challenge you to grow
Uh-huh.
and hold you accountable.
It's like having a personal board of advisors for your life.
I love that. Okay, but let's be real. Even with the best support system,
Yeah,
conflict is sometimes unavoidable.
it is.
How does Proverbs advise us
Hmm.
to handle those tough situations?
Well, Proverbs 15.1 gives us some pretty straightforward advice.
Okay, what's that?
A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It's a classic for a reason.
It is. I can definitely relate to that. It's so easy to,
Yeah,
to just let your emotions get the best of you
it's true.
in a heated moment
Yeah,
and say something you regret later.
it happens to the best of us. But this proverb, it reminds us that responding with calmness and understanding,
Right.
even when we're feeling angry or hurt,
Yeah.
that can de-escalate a situation.
It's like choosing wisdom over reactivity.
Exactly.
And that's definitely a skill that takes practice.
It does. And
Mhm.
sometimes the wisest course of action
Yeah.
is to simply walk away from a situation
Oh, okay.
before it escalates.
Like protect your energy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes disengaging is the best way to avoid unnecessary drama.
Right.
Speaking of avoiding drama,
Yeah.
Proverbs 12.16 says, "A fool's wrath is presently known, but a prudent man covereth shame." It's a reminder that losing your temper
Yeah.
often leads to regret and further damage.
So even when you feel like totally justified in your anger,
Yeah,
it's important to think about the long-term consequences
Agreed.
of your actions.
exactly. And, even when conflict does happen,
Mhm.
Proverbs emphasizes the importance of forgiveness and reconciliation. Like in Proverbs 12.14, it says, "A man shall be satisfied with good by the fruit of his mouth, and the recompense of a man's hands shall be rendered unto him."
Okay, so it's like what goes around comes around.
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
Okay.
If you want to be treated with kindness and understanding,
Right.
you need to offer that same kindness and understanding to others.
And it's about taking responsibility for your own actions, right?
Absolutely.
So owning up to your mistakes,
Mhm.
apologizing when necessary,
Right.
and just seeking to make things right.
It's not always easy,
It's not.
but it's the path to true peace and restoration.
Wow, we've covered so much ground
We have.
in this section. It's amazing how much wisdom
It is.
about relationships is just packed into these chapters.
It really is. And I think the overarching message here
Okay.
is that building strong and healthy relationships,
Yeah.
it requires wisdom, integrity, compassion,
Uh-huh.
and a willingness to work through conflict constructively.
And to remember that our actions and our words, they have a direct impact on the people around us.
Absolutely. Now, before we move on to the final section,
Okay.
is there anything from this part of our deep dive
Yeah.
that really stood out to you?
You know, I'm really struck by this idea that integrity is the foundation
Yeah.
of trust.
Yeah.
It makes me want to, I don't know, just examine my own life.
Okay.
See if my actions are truly aligned with my values.
That's great.
And it makes me really appreciate the importance of having that supportive network of people that I can trust.
It's so important. That's a powerful insight
Thanks.
and a great reminder that, we're not meant to navigate life's challenges alone.
Yeah,
We need each other.
absolutely. Okay, are you ready to dive into the final stretch of our deep dive?
Let's do it.
We still got a few more chapters to explore.
I'm ready. Let's see what other gems of wisdom we can uncover.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Proverbs, chapters 10 through 15. I feel like we've already uncovered so much. From righteousness and wisdom to the power of words, wealth, relationships. I mean, what else is there?
Well, as we move into chapters 13 through 15, we see a few more kind of intriguing themes that emerge.
Okay.
This contrast between diligence and laziness,
Oh,
the importance of knowledge and discernment,
right.
and even, some advice on how to handle those, well,
What? Those.
difficult people
Yeah.
we all encounter in life.
Ugh, yes.
Those difficult people.
Okay, so diligence versus laziness. I
Right.
think we can all relate to that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Especially on Monday mornings.
Especially on Monday mornings.
But seriously, what does Proverbs have to say about this?
Well, Proverbs has some pretty strong opinions on the matter.
Okay.
Take a look at Proverbs 13.4. The soul of the sluggard desireth, and hath nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made fat.
Made fat. Wow, okay, that's...
It's a pretty vivid way to put it.
It is.
But I think the point is about more than just, material wealth.
Okay.
It's this idea that diligence,
Yeah.
putting in the effort, being persistent,
Mm-hmm.
it leads to abundance
Okay.
in all areas of life.
Okay, so not just wealth,
Not just wealth, no.
but like knowledge, skills.
Yes, relationships,
Yeah.
even spiritual fulfillment.
Laziness. It's not just about like,
Right.
sleeping in or binge watching TV.
No, it's bigger than that.
It's about a lack of effort,
Yes,
intention
in any area
in any area of life.
of life.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
And you see this again in Proverbs 15.15.
Okay.
The way of the slothful man is as a hedge of thorns, but the way of the righteous is made plain.
Okay.
It's like laziness, it creates obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
It makes everything harder.
Yeah.
Diligence, though,
Yeah.
that smooths the path forward.
I can definitely relate to that. There are times when I just let things pile up.
Oh, yeah.
It creates so much stress.
It does.
Unnecessary stress.
Totally.
But when I'm proactive
Yeah.
and stay on top of things,
Right.
life just feels so much smoother.
It's like that saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Right.
And speaking of prevention,
Okay.
I'm really struck by how much emphasis Proverbs places on knowledge and discernment. Like in Proverbs 14.15,
Okay.
the simple believeth every word,
Mm-hmm.
but the prudent man looketh well to his going.
So that's about what?
It's about thinking critically,
Yeah.
questioning assumptions.
Not just blindly accepting everything you hear
Exactly.
or read,
Right.
which feels super relevant today.
It does, doesn't it?
With all this information and misinformation just constantly bombarding us.
All the time.
Yeah.
We have to be discerning,
Mm,
about what we allow into our minds and hearts.
that's a good point.
And that leads us to another really important theme,
Okay.
dealing with difficult people.
Oh, yes.
We all have them in our lives, don't we?
We do.
Whether it's a negative coworker,
Right.
a dramatic family member,
Yeah.
that friend who's always complaining.
Right.
What does Proverbs have to say about how to navigate
Yeah, how to navigate those relationships.
those relationships? Well, Proverbs 14.7 gives some pretty straightforward advice.
Okay.
Go from the presence of a foolish man, when thou perceivest not in him the lips of knowledge.
So sometimes the wisest course of action is
Yeah.
to just remove yourself from the situation.
Yes, remove yourself.
Like if it's toxic, just
If toxic, get out.
get out of there. Protect your energy.
Protect your energy. But what about those times
Yeah.
when you can't just avoid someone?
Right.
Like you can't just quit your job every time a coworker is being difficult.
Exactly.
You're right. Some situations require us to engage,
Right.
even when it's challenging.
Yeah.
And remember that proverb we talked about earlier,
Which one?
a soft answer turneth away wrath?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That still applies,
It does. It does.
even in these situations.
Yeah. So even when someone's being difficult,
Yeah.
Try to respond with calmness.
Yes.
Choose your words carefully. Don't get pulled into their drama.
Don't get pulled in.
Stay above it.
Stay above it.
Yeah, okay.
And Proverbs 15.28 offers another good reminder.
Okay.
The heart of the righteous studieth to answer, but the mouth of the wicked poureth out evil things.
So it's about being thoughtful,
Yes.
intentional,
With our words.
not just reacting impulsively.
Don't just react.
Yeah, okay.
Think before you speak, right?
Right. Take a deep breath before you speak.
Exactly.
All that good stuff.
All that good stuff. And sometimes
Yeah.
the most difficult person
Yeah.
we have to deal with
Uh-huh.
is ourselves.
Oh, tell me about it.
We can be our own worst critics.
I get stuck in these negative self-talk loops.
Oh, yeah.
It's so draining.
Well, Proverbs has something to say about that, too.
Does it? Okay, good.
Remember Proverbs 15.13, a merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance, but by sorrow of the heart the spirit is broken.
It's a reminder that joy, a positive attitude,
Yeah.
gratitude,
Gratitude.
these can be such powerful forces,
They can.
even in the face of challenges.
Even when things are tough.
Yeah,
Choosing to focus on the good,
right.
it can make a huge difference.
It's like choosing to focus on the good,
Yes.
even when things are tough.
Even when things are tough.
Yeah.
Cultivating a joyful heart, that can really lift your spirits.
Yeah.
And the spirits of those around you.
It's true. It's true. It's so easy to get bogged down in the negative.
It is.
But choosing to focus on the positive, man, that can make a huge difference.
It really can.
Well, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive
Like we have.
into Proverbs chapters 10 through 15. It's incredible how much wisdom
I know, it's
is
amazing.
packed into these ancient sayings. I feel like I've gained so many insights
Me too.
that I can apply to my life today.
They're timeless, aren't they?
They are. It's like they really do speak to the challenges and the opportunities that we all face.
We do.
No matter what time period we live in. So if you had to choose just one proverb
Okay.
from these chapters to guide you this week, which one would it be and why?
That's a tough one. There are so many good ones. But I think I'd go with Proverbs 15.1.
Okay.
A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger.
Hmm.
In a world that often feels, so divided and angry these days,
Yeah.
that message of choosing kindness and understanding
Yeah.
over aggression,
Yeah.
I think is more important than ever.
That's a good one. It's a powerful reminder that we all have the power to create
We do.
a more peaceful,
Yes.
harmonious world,
Absolutely.
starting with our own words and actions.
It starts with us.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into Proverbs.
It's been my pleasure.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
We have. There's always more to explore.
That's the beauty of it. And to all our listeners out there, we hope you've enjoyed this journey as much as we have. Until next time, keep seeking wisdom and knowledge, and remember, a soft answer turneth away wrath. Welcome to a deep dive into the book of Proverbs.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be looking at chapters 15 through 20.
Yep.
We'll be exploring wisdom, integrity, and relationships,
That's it.
all as they're presented in this ancient text.
Right.
You might be surprised how relevant these proverbs can be even thousands of years after they were written.
Oh, absolutely.
It really is remarkable how much human nature has stayed the same
Yeah.
over the centuries, hasn't it?
It really is.
Okay, so let's jump right in.
Right.
One of the things that Proverbs really emphasizes
Yeah.
is the power of words.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever stopped to think about how your words impact the people around you?
Oh, yeah. It's something we often overlook.
Right.
But the book of Proverbs really drives that point home.
It does.
Take Proverbs 15.1, for example.
Okay.
A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger.
It's such a simple statement,
Right?
but it packs a powerful punch,
It really does.
doesn't it?
It does. And it's not just an abstract idea either.
Yep.
There's actually a lot of research that backs up this idea.
Is there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Studies have shown that positive affirmations, for example,
Okay.
can actually change the way our brains function,
Wow.
reducing stress and boosting our overall well-being.
Interesting.
On the flip side, verbal abuse can have lasting negative impacts
Yeah.
on a person's mental and emotional health.
Oh, that's incredible. It's like Proverbs is tapping into some fundamental truths about human psychology.
Exactly. And we see that throughout these chapters.
We do.
Another example that comes to mind is Proverbs 15.24,
Okay.
which says, "Pleasant words are as an honeycomb, sweet to the soul, and health to the bones."
I love that imagery.
Right.
It's so vivid and evocative.
Yeah.
Why do you think the writer chose to compare pleasant words to a honeycomb specifically?
Yeah, I think it speaks to the nourishing and restorative power
Okay.
of kind words.
Okay.
Just like honey provides sustenance and healing for the body,
Right.
kind words can nourish our soul and strengthen our relationships.
That's a great point. It makes you think twice about
It does.
the words you choose to use, doesn't it?
It really does. And Proverbs also doesn't shy away
It doesn't.
from talking about the consequences of using words carelessly or harmfully.
Right. Proverbs 18.21 states
Okay.
that death and life are in the power of the tongue,
Mm.
and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof.
Wow.
That's a pretty sobering thought.
Absolutely. It highlights the responsibility we have
Yeah.
to choose our words carefully
Uh-huh.
and to be mindful of the impact they have on others.
So it's not just about what we say, but how we say it and the
Correct.
intention behind our words.
Right. And this brings us to another major theme in Proverbs,
Okay.
the contrast between wisdom and foolishness.
Yeah. I noticed that these chapters seem to be saying
Yeah.
there are two paths you can choose in life.
Uh-huh.
One leads to wisdom, the other to foolishness. Which will you choose?
Right.
But it's not as simple as just labeling people as wise or foolish, is it?
No, not at all.
I mean, these qualities exist on a spectrum,
Right.
and we all have the capacity for both wisdom and foolishness within us.
We do.
That's a really interesting point. It's not black and white,
No,
is it?
not at all. It's more about recognizing the tendencies we have
Okay.
and making a conscious effort to cultivate wisdom in our lives.
So how does Proverbs define wisdom? What does it look like in practice?
Well, Proverbs 15.14 tells us that
Okay.
the heart of the wise seeketh knowledge.
Okay.
They're constantly learning, growing,
Right.
and seeking to understand the world around them.
Makes sense.
And Proverbs 15.22 adds that,
Okay.
without counsel purposes are disappointed, but in the multitude of counselors they are established.
So wise people aren't afraid to ask for advice
Yeah.
and to learn from others.
Exactly.
That makes sense. It's like the saying,
Hmm.
2 heads are better than one.
Yeah.
But what about foolishness? How does Proverbs characterize that?
Well, Proverbs often portrays foolish people as impulsive, arrogant, and unwilling to listen to advice. For instance, Proverbs 15.5 says,
What?
"A fool despiseth his father's instruction, but he that regardeth reproof is prudent."
So they lack humility
Right.
and they're resistant to learning from their mistakes.
Exactly. And that often leads to negative consequences.
It does.
As Proverbs 19.3 makes clear,
What does it say?
"The foolishness of man perverteth his way, and his heart fretteth against the Lord."
So Proverbs is suggesting that our choices have consequences.
Right.
Choosing the path of wisdom leads to positive outcomes, while choosing the path of foolishness leads to pain and suffering.
Exactly. And this applies not only to our personal lives,
Right.
but also to our interactions with others.
You know, one of the things that really stands out to me about Proverbs
Yeah,
is how it emphasizes the importance of integrity.
it does.
It's like it's saying that true success isn't just about outward achievements,
Right.
but about having a strong moral compass.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And it connects this idea of integrity
Mm.
to both our personal and our professional lives.
For example, in Proverbs 15.29, we read
Right.
that the Lord is far from the wicked, but he heareth the prayer of the righteous.
Okay.
And then in Proverbs 20.7, it says,
Okay.
the just man walketh in his integrity. His children are blessed after him.
Those verses are powerful reminders that our actions have consequences,
Right.
not just for ourselves, but also for the people around us
Uh-huh.
and even for future generations.
So integrity isn't just about following the rules.
Oh.
It's about living in alignment with our values
Right.
and striving to do what's right even when it's difficult.
Exactly. It's about building a solid foundation
Okay.
for a life of purpose and meaning.
And Proverbs also has a lot to say about the flip side of that coin. The dangers of dishonesty and corruption,
Uh-huh.
like in Proverbs 15.9, where it states,
Okay.
the way of the wicked is an abomination unto the Lord.
It's clear that Proverbs condemns those who prioritize
Right.
self-interest over integrity. It warns that such behavior ultimately leads to destruction.
It's interesting how Proverbs connects integrity with blessing.
Yeah.
It seems to be suggesting that living a righteous life brings
No.
not only peace of mind, but
Yeah.
also tangible benefits for ourselves and our families.
It highlights the ripple effect of our choices,
Yeah.
how our actions can have a lasting impact
Right.
on the people we care about.
And speaking of the people we care about,
Okay.
let's dive into the topic of relationships.
Right.
After all, humans are social creatures, right?
We are.
So it's no surprise that a lot of these proverbs offer guidance
Right.
on how to navigate the complexities of human connection.
Yes. And what's remarkable is how much of this ancient advice
Right.
is still relevant today.
So what kind of relationship wisdom does Proverbs offer? What stood out to you as you were reading these chapters?
Well, it covers a wide range of relationships,
Does it?
from parent-child dynamics to friendships
Right.
and even romantic relationships.
Okay. Let's start with the parent-child stuff.
Okay.
I bet a lot of parents out there could use some ancient wisdom right about now.
Absolutely. Proverbs offers a lot of insights into the joys and challenges of raising children.
Okay.
For instance, Proverbs 15:20 says,
Okay.
"A wise son maketh a glad father, but a foolish man despiseth his mother."
Ouch. I bet that one hits home for some parents.
Yeah.
But it does highlight the importance of raising children
Right.
who are respectful and responsible.
Exactly. And then Proverbs 17:25 cautions,
Okay.
"A foolish son is a grief to his father, and bitterness to her that bare him."
Okay.
It suggests that there's a balance to be struck
There is.
between loving our children
Right.
and setting appropriate boundaries.
So it's not about spoiling our kids,
Right.
but about guiding them towards wisdom and independence.
Precisely. And Proverbs also recognizes that parenting isn't always easy.
Right.
There will be challenges and frustrations along the way.
You know, this whole conversation about wisdom and foolishness makes me think about how important it is to choose our friends wisely. Proverbs seems to be saying that the company we keep can have a huge impact on our lives.
You're absolutely right.
Right.
Proverbs 17:1 sin tells us
Okay.
that a friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity.
That's such a beautiful sentiment.
It is.
It speaks to the power of true friendship.
Uh-huh.
How real friends are there for you through thick and thin.
Exactly. But it also implies that true friendship is about more
It is.
than just having fun together.
Right.
True friends challenge us,
Uh-huh.
encourage us to grow and offer support during difficult times.
They're the ones who will tell you the truth,
Right.
even when it's hard to hear.
Exactly. They have your best interests at heart,
Yeah.
even if it means delivering difficult truths.
Right.
And Proverbs at 18:24 really emphasizes
Okay.
the depth of true friendship.
What does it say?
A man that have friends must show himself friendly.
Right.
And there's a friend that sticketh closer than a brother.
Wow. A friend who's closer than family.
Yeah.
That's a powerful statement.
It really is, and it speaks to the transformative power
It does.
of a genuine connection.
You know, as we're talking about relationships,
Yeah.
I can't help but notice how often Proverbs mentions the importance of controlling our anger.
Yes, that's another recurring theme.
It is.
Proverbs 15:1 advises,
Okay.
"A wrathful man stirreth up strife, but he that is slow to anger appeaseth strife."
So it's basically saying, think before you speak.
Right.
And don't let your emotions get the best of you.
Exactly. Proverbs reminds us that responding with calmness and reason
Okay.
is far more effective than lashing out in anger.
And it's not just about avoiding conflict.
Right.
Proverbs also talks about the importance of reconciliation.
It does.
Like in Proverbs 17:1, where it says,
Right.
the beginning of strife is as when one letteth out water, therefore leave off contention before it be meddled with.
It's a great analogy,
It is.
isn't it? It's like saying, don't let a small disagreement escalate into a major flood.
Okay.
Address issues early on, communicate openly and honestly,
Right.
and don't let resentment fester.
That's great advice for any relationship,
It is.
whether it's with a family member, a friend, or a romantic partner.
Absolutely. Proverbs offers timeless wisdom
Yeah.
that can help us build stronger, healthier, and more fulfilling relationships.
You know, one of the things that surprised me about these chapters of Proverbs is how much they have to say about wealth and poverty.
Right.
What's interesting is that it doesn't simply equate wealth with happiness or poverty with misery.
Right.
It offers a much more nuanced perspective.
Yes, and this is where I think we see the social commentary
Okay.
of Proverbs really come into play.
Okay.
It challenges some of the common assumptions
Right.
about wealth and poverty.
For instance, Proverbs 16:8 states
Got
that better is a little with righteousness than great revenues without right.
That's a powerful statement, isn't it?
It is.
It suggests that it's better to have less and be a good person
Right.
than to be wealthy and corrupt.
And then in Proverbs 19:1, it says,
Okay.
better is the poor that walketh in his integrity than he that is perverse in his lips and is a fool.
So Proverbs is making a clear distinction
Okay.
between material wealth and true wealth.
Okay.
True wealth lies in character integrity
Right.
and a right relationship with God.
It's a really thought-provoking perspective,
It is.
especially in a society that often equates success with material possessions.
Absolutely. Proverbs is urging us to reevaluate our priorities
Yeah.
and to recognize that true happiness doesn't come from acquiring more things,
Okay.
but from living a life of purpose, meaning, and integrity.
You know, as we're wrapping up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
I can't help but be struck by how relevant these proverbs still feel,
Right.
even thousands of years after they were written.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It really is.
They offer timeless wisdom on everything, from the power of our words
Mm-hmm.
to the importance of integrity
Right.
and the complexities of human relationships.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
We have.
There's so much more to unpack
There is.
in these chapters of Proverbs, but we'll have to save that for next time.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned, because in part 2 of our deep dive,
Okay.
we'll be exploring even more of the fascinating insights
All right.
and practical wisdom that Proverbs has to offer.
Looking forward to it.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the book of Proverbs.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
In part 1, we talked about the power of words, the difference between wisdom and foolishness,
Right.
the importance of integrity,
Yeah.
and the complexities of relationships.
It was a lot.
But that was just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, it was.
There's still so much more to discover in these chapters.
Oh, absolutely. Proverbs covers such a wide range of topics
It does.
and offers so many practical insights
Yeah.
that it's hard to know where to begin.
Well, one thing that really struck me as we were preparing for this episode was how often Proverbs talks about the tension
Okay.
between pride and humility.
You're right. That's a major theme throughout these chapters.
It is, isn't it?
Proverbs repeatedly warns us about the dangers of pride
Yeah.
and the importance of cultivating humility.
Like in Proverbs 16.1, it says,
Okay.
"Pride goeth before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall."
It's a pretty classic warning, isn't it?
It is. It's a reminder that pride often blinds us
Right.
to our own weaknesses and sets us up for failure.
It's like that saying, the bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Yeah.
Pride can make us overconfident
Right.
and lead us to make poor decisions.
And on the flip side, humility allows us to learn from our mistakes,
Right.
seek guidance from others,
Yeah.
and grow as individuals.
So how do we cultivate humility?
Yeah, that's a great question.
In a world that often seems to reward arrogance and self-promotion?
I think Proverbs offers some clues.
Does it?
It encourages us to focus on our character
Okay.
rather than our accomplishments.
Right.
To be grateful for what we have.
Uh-huh.
And to recognize that we are all flawed human beings in need of grace.
So it's about shifting our perspective, right?
Yeah.
Instead of constantly comparing ourselves to others
Mm-hmm.
and striving for external validation, we should be focusing on our internal growth
Yeah.
and striving to become the best versions of ourselves.
You've got it. Proverbs reminds us that true fulfillment comes not from outward appearances, but from inner strength and integrity.
You know, this whole conversation about pride and humility makes me think about how often Proverbs talks about the importance of seeking knowledge and counsel.
Well, yeah, it's like it's saying, don't try to figure everything out on your own.
Right.
Tap into the wisdom of others.
It's a recurring theme
It is.
throughout these chapters.
Proverbs 15.22 says, "Without counsel purposes are disappointed, but in the multitude of counselors they are established."
It's like having a GPS for life.
Oh, I like that.
We might know our destination, but we still need directions to help us navigate the twists and turns and avoid dead ends.
I love that analogy.
It perfectly captures the essence
It does.
of what Proverbs is saying about seeking counsel.
And then in Proverbs 19.20 we read,
Okay.
"Hear counsel and receive instruction, that thou mayest be wise in thy latter end."
It's like Proverbs is urging us to be lifelong learners.
Be a lifelong learner.
There's always more to learn, regardless of our age or experience.
Right.
And seeking advice from wise and trustworthy sources can help us make better decisions and avoid unnecessary pitfalls.
You know, it's interesting how Proverbs connects this idea of seeking counsel to the theme of friendship.
Right.
Like in Proverbs 17.1 it says, "A friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity."
It's like true friends are those who are willing to offer us
Okay.
not just support, but also honest feedback and guidance.
You're right. Proverbs recognizes that true friendship is about more than just sharing good times.
It is.
It's about having people in our lives who will
Yeah.
challenge us, hold us accountable,
Right.
and help us grow as individuals.
They're the ones who aren't afraid to tell us
Yeah,
when we're being foolish,
right.
even if it might hurt our feelings in the moment.
They have our best interests at heart,
Exactly.
even if it means delivering difficult truths.
Proverbs reminds us that true friends are a precious gift,
They are.
and we should value their wisdom and support.
Now, shifting gears a bit,
Okay.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what Proverbs has to say about work and diligence.
Okay.
There are a few verses that really stood out to me,
All right.
like Proverbs 18.9.
Okay.
He also that is slothful in his work is brother to him that is a great waster.
Ah, yes. Proverbs has a lot to say about the importance
Mhm.
of hard work, diligence,
Okay.
and avoiding laziness.
Right.
It contrasts the wise,
Yeah.
who are industrious and productive,
Uh,
with the foolish, who are idle and wasteful.
It's like that saying, early to bed, early to rise,
Right?
makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Yeah.
Proverbs seems to be echoing that sentiment,
Uh-huh.
emphasizing that hard work is essential for success and fulfillment.
Yes. It's interesting how often Proverbs links diligence to material prosperity.
It does.
But I think it's also important to note
Yeah.
that Proverbs isn't just about material success.
Right.
It also suggests that hard work and diligence
Okay.
have moral value.
So it's not just about chasing a paycheck. It's about having a strong work ethic, a sense of responsibility,
Right.
and a desire to contribute to something larger than ourselves.
Exactly. And Proverbs also warns against the dangers
It does.
of laziness and procrastination.
Right.
Proverbs 20.4 puts it quite bluntly.
Okay, what does it say?
The sluggard will not plow by reason of the cold. Therefore shall he beg in harvest and have nothing.
It's a stark reminder that laziness can lead to poverty and want,
Right.
not just in a material sense,
Yeah.
but also in a spiritual and emotional sense.
Right. When we fail to cultivate our talents
Yeah.
and contribute our efforts,
Uh,
we miss out on the satisfaction and fulfillment
right.
that come from a life of purpose and meaning.
You know, this conversation about diligence
Yeah.
makes me think about how often Proverbs talks about
Mm.
the importance of integrity in our work.
Yes, absolutely. Proverbs reminds us that integrity is essential in all areas of life,
Uh-huh.
including our work.
For instance, Proverbs 10.4 states that
Yeah.
he becometh poor that dealeth with the slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich.
It's like Proverbs is saying that honesty and hard work
Yeah.
go hand in hand.
And Proverbs 28.1 adds
Yeah.
that he that tilleth his land shall have plenty of bread, but he that followeth after vain persons shall have poverty enough.
It's a reminder that true prosperity comes
Right.
from honest labor and ethical practices.
It's like that saying,
Yeah.
there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Right.
Proverbs seems to be saying that shortcuts and schemes
Uh-huh.
might lead to temporary gains,
Right.
but ultimately, true success is built on a foundation
Huh.
of hard work and integrity.
Yes. And this connects back to our earlier conversation about wisdom.
It does.
Choosing the path of integrity and diligence
Right.
is ultimately a wise choice,
Uh-huh.
both in our personal and professional lives.
You know, as we're talking about work and diligence, I can't help but notice that Proverbs also has a lot to say about money management and the dangers of debt.
You're right. Proverbs offers some pretty timeless advice on these topics.
Right.
Advice that's just as relevant today as it was
It is.
thousands of years ago.
For example, in Proverbs 22.7, it says,
Okay.
"The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender."
It's a sobering reminder of how debt can trap us in a cycle of dependence
Right.
and limit our freedom.
It's like it's saying, don't let your spending habits control you.
Right.
Be mindful of your finances and avoid unnecessary debt.
Exactly. And Proverbs encourages us
Mhm.
to be wise stewards of our resources,
Okay.
whether we have a lot or a little.
Like in Proverbs 13.11, where it says,
Right.
"Wealth gotten by vanity shall be diminished, but he that gathereth by labor shall increase."
It's a reminder that true wealth is built
Okay.
on a foundation of hard work, diligence, and ethical practices.
You know, one of the things that I find really fascinating about Proverbs is that it doesn't shy away from addressing social issues such as justice and righteousness.
You're right. Proverbs has a strong moral compass,
It does.
and it clearly condemns corruption and injustice.
For example, in Proverbs 17.23, we read
Okay.
that a wicked man taketh a gift out of the bosom to pervert the ways of judgment.
It seems pretty clear that Proverbs is denouncing bribery and corruption.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Proverbs 29.4 reinforces that idea
Okay.
by stating,
Oh.
"The king by judgment establisheth the land, but he that receiveth gifts overthroweth it."
So Proverbs is saying that those in positions of power
Right.
have a responsibility to uphold justice and fairness.
Exactly. And that those who abuse their power for personal gain
Right.
ultimately undermine the well-being of their communities.
It's a timeless message
It is.
that's especially relevant in today's world, where we see so many examples of corruption and abuse of power.
Absolutely. Proverbs reminds us that justice is essential
Yeah.
for a healthy society,
Right.
and that those who provoke justice will ultimately face consequences.
You know, as we're talking about these weighty topics of
Yeah.
justice and righteousness,
Huh?
I can't help but think about how often Proverbs talks about
Yeah.
the importance of contentment.
Yes. That's another recurring theme.
It is.
Proverbs encourages us to be grateful for what we have
Uh-huh.
and to find joy in the simple things in life.
Like in Proverbs 15.20, which says,
Okay.
"Better is little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble therewith."
It's a reminder that true happiness doesn't come
It doesn't.
from accumulating possessions,
Right,
but from living a life of purpose and meaning,
right.
guided by a sense of reverence and respect
Uh-huh.
for something greater than ourselves.
So it's about recognizing that even though there will be challenges and hardships
Right.
in life, we can find peace and contentment
Uh-huh.
by focusing on what truly matters.
Exactly. And Proverbs 17.1 puts it this way.
Okay, how?
Better is a dry morsel and quietness therewith than an house full of sacrifices with strife.
So it's about prioritizing peace and harmony
Right.
over material wealth or social status.
Right. Proverbs encourages us to cultivate a spirit of contentment,
Uh-huh.
recognizing that true happiness comes from within,
Right.
not from external circumstances.
This whole conversation about contentment
Yeah.
makes me think about how often Proverbs contrasts the peace of the righteous with the turmoil of the wicked.
You're right. Proverbs seems to be saying
Mm-hmm.
that true peace and happiness are found
Okay.
in living a life that is aligned with God's will.
Like in Proverbs 12.21, it
Hmm.
says, "There shall no evil happen to the just, but the wicked shall be filled with mischief."
It's like Proverbs is suggesting
Okay.
that living a righteous life brings a sense of security and peace
Okay.
that the wicked will never know.
And Proverbs 14.32 adds
Okay.
that the wicked is driven away in his wickedness, but the righteous have hope in his death.
It implies that the righteous face even death
Wow.
with a sense of peace and hope
Right.
because they know that their lives have been lived in accordance
Uh-huh.
with God's will.
It's a really powerful image, isn't it?
It is.
And it speaks to the idea that true peace and happiness are rooted in something
Yeah.
much deeper than just our circumstances or our possessions.
Exactly. It's about living a life
Right.
that is grounded in something eternal and unchanging.
You know, as we're wrapping up this part of our deep dive into Proverbs,
Yeah.
I'm struck by the sheer breadth and depth
Right.
of the wisdom contained within these chapters.
It's really quite something.
We've talked about everything from humility and diligence to money management and contentment.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is.
Proverbs really does offer guidance for practically every aspect of life.
It does.
And what's even more remarkable is that this wisdom is just as relevant today
It is.
as it was thousands of years ago.
Well, before we dive into the final part
Okay.
of our deep dive,
Uh-huh.
I think it would be helpful to take a moment to reflect on what we've learned so far.
Yes, that's a great idea.
What are some of the key takeaways
Mm.
that have resonated with you?
Well, for me, one of the biggest takeaways
Yeah. Okay.
is the importance of seeking wisdom
Okay.
from a variety of sources,
Okay.
whether it's from mentors, friends, family,
Mhm.
or even from ancient texts like Proverbs.
Right.
There's always something valuable to be learned from those who've gone before us.
I completely agree. And for me, another major takeaway
Yeah.
is the interconnectedness of all these different themes.
Hmm.
We've talked about wisdom, integrity, relationships, work, money, justice, and contentment.
Right.
But these aren't separate, isolated concepts.
Right.
They all work together to create a holistic vision
Uh-huh.
of what it means to live a good and meaningful life.
That's such a great point.
And I think it's something that Proverbs does really well.
It does.
It doesn't just give us a list of rules or principles to follow.
Right.
It offers a unified vision of a life
Yeah.
that is both fulfilling and pleasing to God.
Exactly.
Mm,
And it challenges us to consider how all these different aspects of
Really?
our lives work together
yeah.
to shape who we are and who we're becoming.
As we're wrapping up this part of our conversation,
Yeah.
I can't help but think about that verse from Proverbs 4.7.
Okay.
Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting get understanding.
Powerful word.
It's like Proverbs is saying
Yeah.
that wisdom should be our top priority.
Uh,
It's the foundation for everything else in life.
yes. It's the key to making wise choices,
Right.
building strong relationships,
Yeah.
and living a life that is both meaningful and fulfilling.
And the journey toward wisdom is ongoing, right?
It is.
It's not something that we achieve overnight.
No, it's not.
It's a lifelong pursuit.
Absolutely. It's a process of learning, growing,
Uh-huh.
and becoming more like the people we were created to be.
Well, on that note, we're going to take another quick pause.
Okay.
But don't worry, we'll be back soon
All right.
to wrap up our deep dive into the wisdom of Proverbs.
Sounds good.
In part 3, we'll be exploring some of the more practical applications of
Okay.
these proverbs and considering how we can apply
Yeah.
these ancient insights to our modern lives.
Stay tuned, folks.
We're just getting to the good stuff. Welcome back. We're in the final stretch of our deep dive into Proverbs chapters 15 through 20.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has. We've covered so much ground,
Yeah.
from the power of words to the importance of integrity and the complexities of relationships. And in this last part, I'd love to focus on how we can actually apply these ancient proverbs to our modern lives.
That's a great idea. It's one thing to admire the wisdom of Proverbs, but it's another thing altogether to put that wisdom into practice.
Exactly. So let's start by talking about something that's relevant to pretty much everyone listening.
Okay.
Money.
Ah, yes, the eternal struggle with finances. What's fascinating is how Proverbs addresses these issues in a way that's both practical and timeless.
For instance, in Proverbs 22.7, it says, "The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender." It's a pretty stark reminder of how debt can limit our freedom and create a sense of dependence.
Right, it's like Proverbs is saying, be mindful of your financial decisions and don't let debt control your life.
And it's not just about avoiding debt. Proverbs also encourages us to be wise stewards of our resources, whether we have a lot or a little.
Right, Proverbs 13.11 puts it this way.
Wealth gotten by vanity shall be diminished, but he that gathereth by labor shall increase. It seems to be suggesting that true prosperity comes from hard work, diligence, and ethical practices.
It's like that saying, easy come, easy go. Proverbs is reminding us that shortcuts and get-rich-quick schemes rarely lead to lasting wealth.
Exactly. True wealth is built on a foundation of integrity and hard work.
One of the things that I find really encouraging about Proverbs is that it doesn't just focus on the negative. It also talks a lot about the positive aspects of wealth, such as the ability to be generous and to help those in need.
Yes, Proverbs recognizes that wealth can be a powerful tool for good when it's used wisely and compassionately.
Like in Proverbs 19.17, which says, He that hath pity upon the poor lendeth unto the Lord, and that which he hath given will he pay him again. It's a beautiful reminder that generosity is ultimately a blessing both for the giver and the receiver.
And Proverbs 22.9 adds, "He that hath a bountiful eye shall be blessed, for he giveth of his bread to the poor." So Proverbs is suggesting that those who are generous with their resources will ultimately be rewarded.
It's like that saying, what goes around comes around. Proverbs seems to be affirming the idea that generosity creates a positive ripple effect in the world.
Yes. It creates a cycle of blessing that benefits everyone involved.
This whole conversation about money and generosity makes me think about how often Proverbs talks about the dangers of envy and discontentment.
You're right. Proverbs repeatedly warns us about the dangers of comparing ourselves to others and coveting what they have.
For example, in Proverbs 14.30, it says, A sound heart is the life of the flesh, but envy the rottenness of the bones. It's a pretty vivid image.
It is. It suggests that envy can eat away at us from the inside out, destroying our peace and happiness.
And Proverbs 28.22 adds, He that hasteth to be rich hath an evil eye, and considereth not that poverty shall come upon him. It seems to be saying that the relentless pursuit of wealth can actually lead to poverty both literally and figuratively.
That's an interesting point. Proverbs is suggesting that true wealth lies not in the abundance of our possessions, but in the contentment of our hearts.
Exactly. Proverbs encourages us to find joy in the simple things in life and to be grateful for what we have rather than constantly striving for more.
Like in Proverbs 15.1 saying,
Yeah.
"Better is little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble therewith." It's a powerful reminder that peace and contentment are far more valuable than material wealth.
And Proverbs 17.1 adds this. Better is a dry morsel and quietness therewith than a house full of sacrifices with strife. It suggests that peace and harmony in our homes are more precious than a life of luxury and conflict.
Right. It's a reminder that true happiness comes from within, not from external circumstances.
So how do we cultivate the sense of contentment in a world that's constantly bombarding us with messages about what we should buy, what we should achieve, and how we should look?
That's a great question, and it's definitely a challenge in our modern world.
Yeah.
But I think Proverbs offers some clues. Well, for one thing, Proverbs encourages us to focus on the things that truly matter. Our relationships with God and with others, our character, and our contribution to the world. When we prioritize these things, we're less likely to be swayed by the fleeting allure of material possessions.
That makes sense. It's about shifting our focus from the external to the internal, from the things we can acquire to the kind of person we're becoming.
Exactly. And another thing that Proverbs emphasizes is the importance of gratitude. When we take the time to appreciate the good things in our lives, we're less likely to be envious of what others have.
It's like that saying, count your blessings, not your troubles. Proverbs seems to be suggesting that a grateful heart is a contented heart.
Absolutely. And finally, I think Proverbs encourages us to trust in God's provision. When we believe that God will provide for our needs, we're less likely to be anxious about money or to feel the need to constantly strive for more.
That's a really important point. It's about letting go of our need to control everything and trusting that God has a plan for our lives.
Exactly. And when we do that, we can experience a sense of peace and contentment that no amount of money or possessions can buy.
You know, as we're wrapping up this deep dive into Proverbs, I'm struck by how much practical wisdom is packed into these ancient texts.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've talked about everything from money management and generosity to contentment and gratitude. And these are just a few of the many topics that Proverbs addresses.
So for those of you listening who are looking for guidance on how to live a wiser, more fulfilling, and more meaningful life, I highly encourage you to spend some time reading and reflecting on the book of Proverbs.
You might be surprised at how relevant these ancient proverbs are to your modern life.
And remember, the journey toward wisdom is ongoing. It's a process of learning, growing, and becoming more like the people we were created to be.
So keep seeking, keep learning, and keep growing. And may you be blessed with the wisdom, insight, and courage to live a life that reflects the timeless principles we've explored today.
All right, so today we are going deep, deep into, you guessed it, more wisdom literature.
Oh boy.
And specifically,
More wise words.
we're looking at the book of Proverbs,
Excellent.
chapters 20 through 25.
All right.
And, you know, Proverbs,
Ah.
if you're not familiar.
Right.
It's basically like a collection of short sayings,
Yeah.
observations about life,
Yeah.
advice on how to live.
Little ancient tweets almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the three-
Ancient Twitter threads on how to
Yeah.
live well.
Exactly.
And so we're going to be looking at these and kind of pulling out what's interesting,
Yeah.
what's relevant for us today. And,
Yeah.
you know, we're not coming at this from a preachy perspective. We're
Right.
not endorsing any particular religious viewpoint.
Of course,
We're just trying to see
Yeah.
what timeless wisdom,
What's the gold we can pull out of here?
exactly what gold can we mine
Yeah.
from these ancient texts.
Exactly. And I think there's a lot.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating to me is how much it really just focuses on human nature.
Yeah.
Like just the reality of who we are,
Okay.
both the good and the bad.
So let's dive into some of that bad.
Okay, yeah.
What are we talking about here?
Well, one of the things that you see a recurring theme is laziness.
Okay.
Like, for example, in Proverbs 20.4, it talks about, the sluggard who's too lazy to plow during the planting season. And then when harvest time comes, he's begging for food.
Right.
So, even back then, procrastination was a thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, so it's kind of like a cautionary tale.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Don't put things off too long.
Putting things off, yeah.
To your detriment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Don't hit the snooze button too many times.
Yeah.
But Proverbs isn't all
Ah.
doom and gloom.
No, not at all.
It's not all horrible.
There's a lot of positives to
Right
it.
flaws. Exactly.
Like really encouraging good character development,
Yeah.
positive character traits.
So what kind of things are we talking about?
So we're seeing honesty, integrity, diligence,
Okay.
humility.
All right.
All of these qualities are kind of woven throughout these chapters.
It's like a blueprint.
Yeah, like a blueprint for
Good life.
building a solid life.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
And one thing that I always find interesting about Proverbs is the emphasis on wisdom.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
That's
It's like,
your prized above all
yeah,
else,
it's like more precious
or
than
than gold or rubies.
gold or rubies. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what book?
And I think that's an important distinction to make.
Okay.
Wisdom in Proverbs is not just about being smart or knowledgeable.
Right.
It's about having this insight, this discernment to make good choices,
Yeah. Yeah.
to navigate challenges,
Right.
and
Yeah.
really to live a life of purpose.
So how do we
Yeah.
get this wisdom?
Right.
Is there like a,
A proverb for getting wisdom.
yeah, exactly.
I wish. That would be great.
A how to get wise quick
Hmm.
scheme.
But it's probably not that easy.
It's not that easy.
So what is Proverbs?
Well, Proverbs would suggest that it's something that we cultivate.
Okay.
It doesn't just fall into our lap.
Gotcha.
You know, it's about observing the world around us,
Okay.
learning from our experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and yes, even learning from our mistakes,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah. Speaking of things that we learn from, or at least we
Right.
should learn from,
Hopefully.
relationships.
Yes. Oh, tons of stuff about relationships.
There's a lot about relationships in Proverbs.
Mhm.
And it's interesting how I feel like that hasn't really changed much
Not a lot, no.
over the last few thousand years.
Right.
We're still struggling with the same
Yeah,
issues.
Choosing the right friends,
Yeah.
dealing with conflict,
Yeah.
navigating those tricky dynamics between people who have and those who don't.
Yeah. And I
Mm.
think what's interesting is Proverbs
Mhm.
kind of acknowledges
Yeah,
that power imbalance
right.
that often exists
Yeah, absolutely.
in relationship.
Like in Proverbs 22.2, where it says, the rich and poor meet together. The Lord is the maker of them all.
Okay.
So it's acknowledging that reality,
Yeah.
that there is this difference.
Right.
But I think it's also hinting at,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the responsibility comes
Okay.
with having power and wealth.
So it's not just about
It's not just about getting ahead.
getting ahead.
Right.
Right.
It's about,
Ah.
it's also about
Yeah.
thinking about justice, fairness,
Right. Thinking about
thinking about your impact on others.
your impact on other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that reminds me of another proverb that always kind of makes me think. It's Proverbs 22.6.
Okay.
Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it.
Yeah. That one always sparks debate.
It does, right?
Yeah.
What's your take on that one?
Yeah. To me, it's not about controlling a child's destiny.
Okay.
It's more about providing that guidance.
Yeah.
Instilling those values
Right.
that hopefully will serve them well throughout their life.
Right.
But ultimately, they have to make their own choices.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's about giving them
Giving them the tools.
the tools.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
But not forcing them to use them in a particular way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know there are
Oh, there's so many good ones.
so many good ones.
Yeah.
But what are some that really stand out to you?
Well, let's start with Proverbs 20.1,
Yeah.
where it's warning us about the dangers of alcohol.
Okay.
Wine is a mocker, it says.
Okay.
And it's interesting how relevant that is,
Yeah.
you know, even today.
Yeah. Given all the issues we have with
Exactly. With alcohol abuse.
alcohol abuse. Yeah.
Addiction.
Yeah. It's like,
It's a timeless warning.
have we really learned anything in the last few thousand years
Apparently not.
about how to deal with this mocker?
Yeah.
Let's move on to a more thought-provoking one.
Okay. All right.
I like that. Proverbs 20.1. The hearing ear and the seeing eye, the Lord hath made even both of them.
That's a great one.
What do you make of that one?
Especially in our world today, right? Where
Yeah.
we're just inundated with information,
Yeah.
constantly bombarded with messages.
Yeah. Are we really seeing
Are we really seeing and hearing?
and hearing?
Yeah. Or are we just skimming the surface?
Right.
Are we absorbing without digesting?
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. And that kind of ties into
Hmm.
another proverb that I like.
Okay.
Proverbs 20.22. Say not thou, I will recompense evil, but wait on the Lord, and he shall save thee.
Okay.
This kind of gets into that.
The whole revenge versus justice debate.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
is it better
It's a
to
good one.
seek revenge or to let justice?
Yeah, I think it's suggesting that,
Yeah,
you know, true justice might not happen on our timeline
right.
and that, you know, seeking revenge often backfires.
Yeah, it's kind of encouraging.
It's encouraging a higher perspective.
A higher perspective,
Yeah.
which I think is not always easy to do
No, it's not.
when you feel like you've been wronged.
Absolutely.
Okay, one more before we wrap up this section.
All right.
Proverbs 23.13.
Okay.
This is advice on how to behave at a dinner
Oh, yeah.
with someone powerful.
That's a good one.
It's like ancient
An ancient etiquette advice.
etiquette advice. Yeah.
But it's also about navigating power dynamics
Yes.
and recognizing that
Mhm.
even in tempting situations, self-control is key.
Okay.
Don't overindulge just because you can.
Don't stuff your face just because there's fancy food
Exactly.
in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Timeless advice.
Timeless advice.
And we are back.
Back in the wisdom mine.
Back in the wisdom mine.
That's right.
Digging for those nuggets.
Exactly.
You know, one thing that
Yeah.
really stood out to me in the first part of our look at Proverbs is
Uh-huh.
just how honest it is about human nature.
Yeah, it really does acknowledge that.
It doesn't.
It sugarcoat things.
It doesn't shy away from the fact that we're
Yeah.
capable of both good and bad.
Right. Yeah.
And I feel like
That
that's...
doesn't let us off the hook either.
No.
You know?
It doesn't let us off the
It's
hook.
not like, oh, well, you're human, so it's okay.
Right.
It's like, no, you're human. Here's how to aim for something better.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like owning the
Yeah.
fact that we mess up.
You're gonna mess up,
Yeah.
but there's a way to...
And here's how to deal with it.
Yeah, here's the path of growth.
And that kind of reminds me of a verse we
boy.
didn't get to talk about last time.
Okay.
Proverbs 23.2935.
Oh.
This is
Yeah.
a pretty vivid description
Oh, yeah.
of what happens
Yeah.
when you overindulge in alcohol.
Woe to the drinkers of wine.
Yeah, it's not just like, oh, don't drink too much. It's
Yeah.
like, whoa,
It paints a pretty stark picture.
this is what happens.
Yeah. To your body and your mind.
The consequences.
Yeah.
Physical, mental, emotional,
Yeah.
spiritual.
And it makes me think, obviously this passage is talking about
Yeah, it's specifically about alcohol.
alcohol.
Right.
But are there other things
Yeah, absolutely.
in our modern world
I think so.
that we can kind of apply this to?
Yeah, what are the things that can consume us today
Yeah, what are the things that we get
to the point of detriment?
addicted to?
Yeah, technology, social media,
Yeah.
workaholism.
Yeah, even like good things.
Yeah, even good things in excess
Like exercise.
can become
Unhealthy.
unhealthy. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a reminder.
It's a reminder that overindulgence, whatever the form,
Yeah.
can lead us down a dangerous path.
Okay, so let's talk about a different kind of struggle.
Okay.
This is more about resilience.
Okay. Yeah.
Proverbs 24.16
Okay.
says, "For a just man falleth 7 times and riseth up again."
Oh, that's a good one.
I love that imagery
Yeah. Yeah, because we all fall.
of getting knocked down.
We get knocked down.
Yeah.
But it's about getting back up.
But it's about getting back up
Yeah.
over and over and over.
Right. That's what matters.
That resilience.
And I think that's so
Yeah.
counter to
Especially in our culture today.
our culture today,
Yeah.
where it's all about
Perfection, success.
perfection, success,
Never fail.
never failing.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not realistic.
It's not. This
Yeah,
is saying, hey, you're going to fail, but get back up.
Get back up.
Yeah.
You're going to make mistakes.
Learn from it. Yeah,
So it's not about avoiding failure.
exactly.
It's about how you
About how you respond.
respond to it.
Yes.
Okay, let's jump into
Okay.
chapter 24 here.
All right.
And one thing that's interesting,
Yeah.
right at the beginning,
Mhm.
it says, "These are also Proverbs of Solomon, which the men of Hezekiah, king of Judah, copied out."
So it's kind of like this.
We get a little peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, this little
Yeah.
peek behind the
A
curtain.
little historical note.
Yeah, of like
Yeah.
how these proverbs were
How they were transmitted
and preserved
and passed down.
down through generations.
Yeah, which is amazing.
It's kind of cool to think about.
Yeah, to think that all... Makes you wonder what people centuries from now will think about them.
I know.
You know?
Will they still
Will they still resonate?
resonate?
You know,
Yeah.
will they?
I think so.
I think so too.
I think
Because I think they speak to something so fundamental.
Yeah, there's something so timeless
Yeah, about the human experience.
about the human experience.
You know, our
Yeah.
desires, our struggles, our search for meaning.
And speaking of the search
Wow.
for meaning, there's this proverb in chapter 25 that I always loved.
Mhm.
It's Proverbs 25.01.
Okay.
A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold and pictures of silver.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Isn't
That's
it?
such a
What an image.
beautiful image.
It's beautiful.
And it just makes me think about
Yeah.
the power of words.
Yeah, how they can be used to build up or tear down,
Right. Yeah.
to encourage.
To inspire,
Yeah, or to discourage.
to hurt.
Yeah. And I think choosing our words carefully
Yeah.
is an art form.
It is.
Yeah.
And sometimes
Yeah.
the most powerful words are the ones spoken
In truth and kindness.
in truth and kindness.
Yes, even when they're hard to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That reminds me of Proverbs 24.3-4,
Okay.
where it talks about
Yeah.
wisdom,
hmm
building a house,
Building a
a
house.
strong foundation.
A strong foundation, yeah. And
Mhm.
filling that house
Yeah.
with precious and pleasant riches. What do you think those riches are?
Oh, I love that.
What are those precious?
I think it goes beyond just material possessions.
Oh, okay.
I think it's talking about love, integrity,
Yeah.
purpose, strong relationships.
So those are the true treasures.
Those are the true treasures
Yeah.
that bring lasting joy and fulfillment.
And I think it also speaks to the importance of like
Yes.
that environment that you create.
Yes, absolutely.
Yourself and for
It's about creating a supportive and nurturing environment
Yeah.
for ourselves and those we care about.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
But that takes work.
It does take work, yeah.
It's not just
Now, effort, intentionality, a willingness to learn and grow.
Yeah. And sometimes
Yeah.
that learning and growing
Right.
involves seeking wise counsel.
It does. Like Proverbs 24.6 suggests
Yeah.
having a multitude of counselors.
Okay, but isn't that just asking for like
Yeah, that sounds like a recipe for disaster.
a lot of conflicting opinions?
Right. Well, I don't think it's about blindly following everyone's advice.
Okay.
Right? It's about seeking out diverse perspectives.
Okay.
People who can challenge your assumptions.
Right.
And help you to see things from different angles.
Okay.
You know?
So it's not
It's about being open to being wrong
Yeah.
and learning from others.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that you don't have all the answers.
You don't. None of us do.
Yeah.
And I think humility is key to that.
Okay, humility.
Yeah.
Speaking of humility,
Okay.
there's a proverb in chapter 24
Mhm.
that I find both challenging and intriguing.
Okay.
It's Proverbs 24.17.
Right.
It says, "Rejoice not when thine enemy falleth, and let not thine heart be glad when he stumbleth."
Ooh. Yeah, that's a tall order.
That's a tough one.
Right.
What are you?
It's like, don't celebrate other people's misfortunes,
Yeah.
even if they are your enemy.
Yeah.
I think it speaks to a higher level of compassion.
Okay.
You know, recognizing that taking pleasure in someone else's misfortune
Yeah.
ultimately diminishes us.
Okay.
You know?
So it's like choosing empathy
Yeah. Choosing empathy over schadenfreude.
over schadenfreude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's not always easy,
Not always easy, but
but definitely aspirational,
yeah.
I think.
Now let's switch gears a little bit and
Yeah.
talk about a proverb
Sorry?
that I think a lot of us can relate to, especially in our
Yeah.
fast-paced, productivity-obsessed culture.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
You got it.
The sluggard.
Proverbs 24.3034.
Right.
This is
The parable of the sluggard's vineyard
the parable of the
or
sluggard.
field.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
I love
Vivid illustration.
the imagery in this.
Yeah, of the consequences of laziness,
Yeah, you've
the
got
procrastination,
the thorns,
overgrown thorn,
the rumbling walls.
crumbling walls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just,
It paints this picture of neglect. Yeah, of neglect and decay. And I
Yeah.
think what it's saying is it's not just about
it's not just about physical poverty.
physical poverty.
Right. It's about like a poverty of,
It's about a poverty of ambition,
hang on,
a lack of purpose.
yeah.
Yeah.
So even if you have all the
Even if you have all the material things.
material things in the world,
If you don't have that drive,
you can still be poor
you can still be poor in spirit.
in spirit.
Yeah.
Okay, before we wrap up this part,
Okay.
I want to highlight a proverb
Mhm.
that speaks to the importance of being
Okay.
a reliable and supportive friend.
Okay, I like this.
Proverbs 25.13.
Okay.
As the cold of snow in the time of harvest, so is a faithful messenger to them that send him. For he refresheth the soul of his masters.
Oh, that's a beautiful image.
Isn't that a beautiful image?
Like a refreshing oasis
Yeah.
in the midst of toil.
Yeah, so what do you think it means to be that? What does it mean to be a faithful messenger today?
Faithful messenger.
Yeah, I think it means being there for your friends, for
Yeah.
your loved ones, you know,
Mhm.
offering support and encouragement
When they need it most.
when they need it most.
Yeah, being that
Being that source of strength
source of strength.
and refreshment
Yeah.
in their lives.
Being someone they can count on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone who shows up
Yeah,
even when it's
even when it's inconvenient
inconvenient or
or challenging.
challenging.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's so important.
it is. It is.
And so that wraps up part 2
All right.
of our deep dive into Proverbs.
Very good. Lots of good stuff here.
Lots of good stuff.
Yeah.
From navigating relationships,
Overcoming setbacks.
overcoming setbacks, to choosing
Our words carefully.
our words carefully.
Yeah.
So before we move on to the final part
Okay.
of our deep dive,
All right.
we want to leave you with a question
Okay.
to ponder.
All right. I like this.
If you could choose one proverb from this section
Okay.
to apply to a current challenge in your life,
Mm-hmm.
what would it be?
Yeah.
And how would you put it into practice?
That's a good one to think about.
And we'll be back with part 3
We will.
to wrap up this episode.
Until then, keep seeking that wisdom.
Keep seeking that wisdom. All right, so we're back for the final part of our Proverbs deep dive.
That's right, wrapping things up.
Wrapping things up.
Chapters 20 through 25.
20 through 25.
We've been through a lot.
We've covered a lot of ground.
A lot of wisdom.
It's amazing how much is packed into these few chapters.
Isn't it?
You know, I'm also struck by how Proverbs manages to, like,
Yeah.
blend this really practical advice with these, like, poetic images,
Yeah.
metaphors.
Absolutely. It engages both our head and our heart.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's resonated with people for so long.
For thousands of years.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump into chapter 29.
Okay.
And right away, it starts with this kind of stark warning.
Yeah.
He that being often reproved hardeneth his neck shall suddenly be destroyed, and that without remedy,
Okay, strong words.
intense.
Intense. So, what's going on here?
I think it's highlighting the danger of refusing to listen. You know, becoming resistant to feedback, clinging to our stubbornness.
Yeah.
There's a point where that can lead to our downfall.
Okay.
You know, if we just refuse to learn and adapt.
So it's kind of acknowledging that humility and a willingness to
to learn from our mistakes.
learn from our mistakes, to listen to others,
Yeah, to be open.
even when it's uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Those are really key.
Yeah.
Growth.
Essential for growth.
Which kind of reminds me of another proverb in this section, Proverbs 26.1. As snow in summer and as rain in harvest, so honor is not seemly for a fool.
Oh, yeah. Good one. So it's about, you know, true respect, true honor.
Yeah.
Can't be forced. You can't just demand it.
It has to be earned.
It has to be earned. Yeah.
Right. And
Sure.
sometimes no matter how hard we try,
Yeah.
you know, some people just aren't going to acknowledge our efforts
Right.
or give us the recognition we think we deserve.
Yeah. So maybe
Maybe that's okay.
okay, maybe it's not about that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's about staying true to your own values.
Absolutely.
Your own desire for excellence.
Yes,
Yeah.
striving for excellence for its own sake,
Yeah.
not for external validation.
I like that.
Yeah, focusing too much on that can really lead us astray,
Okay.
you know.
Now I want to lighten things up a bit.
Okay.
With a proverb that always makes me chuckle.
All right, I like these.
Proverbs 26.1 CN.
Okay.
He that passeth by and meddleth with strife belonging not to him is like one that taketh a dog by the ears.
Ooh, that's a vivid image.
Right.
Don't grab a dog by the ears.
It's like, don't get involved in,
Yeah, mind your own business.
mind your own business.
You know, other people's conflicts. It can really backfire.
Sometimes the best thing you can do
Yeah, step back.
is just stay out of it.
Yeah.
But I imagine that's really hard.
It can be, especially if you have a tendency to want to help fix things.
Right. If you see a problem,
Right.
you want to jump in.
But sometimes the wisest thing to do is to just
Stay out of it.
create some space.
Let him
Let him figure it out.
work it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of wise actions,
Okay. All right.
let's talk about one of my favorite proverbs
Go for
from
it.
this section.
Okay.
Proverbs 27.17. Iron sharpeneth iron, so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend.
Oh, that's a good one.
What a great
That's one of my favorites.
analogy.
A beautiful analogy.
It's about true friendship.
True friendship.
How we need those people in our lives who challenge us
Yeah. Who help us.
to become better versions of ourselves.
You know,
So it's like having those friends who are willing to,
hold up the mirror,
hold up the mirror,
even when it's not flattering.
even when it's not pretty,
Yeah, exactly.
but who can also celebrate our successes
Absolutely.
and, you know, support us through our failures.
Yeah, those are the friendships that really enrich our lives.
Right.
All right, so as we're kind of coming to the end of our
Come to a close.
deep dive here,
Yeah.
there's one more proverb I want to highlight.
Okay.
Proverbs 25.28.
Right.
He that hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls.
Okay. That's a powerful image.
Powerful image.
You know, a city without walls is vulnerable.
Vulnerable to attack.
Yeah. To all kinds of danger.
And so it's like,
Yeah.
if you don't have
If you don't have self-control.
self-control, yeah, it's like you're leaving yourself open.
You're leaving yourself open to all sorts of attacks.
Yeah, it's about creating a sense of like
Inner strength.
inner strength. Yeah.
Stability.
So it's not just about resisting temptation.
Yeah.
It's about building that inner resilience. Yeah, that inner fortitude.
Yeah, and I think that's a great
That's a good note to end on.
note to end on, yeah.
Self-mastery.
Self-master.
Resilience. seeking wisdom,
Yeah, these are timeless themes.
timeless themes,
Yeah.
and Proverbs just explores them
With such depth and insight.
in such a profound way.
It's been a fascinating journey,
It really has.
exploring these ancient words.
Yeah, we've covered so much ground.
We have.
And as we wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive,
Yeah.
I just want to encourage you to keep seeking wisdom.
Yes. Keep learning, keep growing,
Keep learning, keep growing,
and striving to live a life.
and striving to live a life of purpose and integrity.
Absolutely.
And who knows?
Maybe you'll find yourself
You might find yourself quoting a proverb
quoting a proverb or two along the way.
or two along the way. All right, ready to dig in. We're going deep on Proverbs, chapters 25 through 31.
Oh, yeah, buckle up.
It's not just like fortune cookie wisdom here.
Yeah.
We're talking generations of advice.
Yeah.
King
Well,
Solomon,
Kings of Judah.
even a queen mother gets in on the action. It's like a master class in ancient living.
I love that.
Yeah, leadership,
Relationships.
just navigating life, the whole thing.
You know, it's really fascinating how these chapters are like a time capsule.
Right.
It's not just like Solomon's greatest hits.
Yeah.
We get these different voices showing how wisdom gets passed down, like built upon over time.
Makes you wonder what advice from today
Right.
people will be looking back on centuries from now.
Totally.
Okay, but let's get into what we've got.
Yeah, let's do it.
We've got practical tips. We've got insights into human nature,
Mhm.
guidance on wealth and leadership,
Mhm.
and even this powerful picture of a virtuous woman, according to these ancient texts.
Yeah, and I think woven through all of it is this search for inner strength, like the qualities that help you stand firm when things get tough.
Ooh, I like that. Inner strength is a theme. Okay,
Yeah,
keep that in mind as we go.
good idea.
So we kick things off with advice for leaders, which, let's be honest, we're all leaders in some way.
In some way, yeah, for sure.
Proverbs 25 jumps right in. A king's honor, it says, is all about seeking truth.
It's like verse 2. It is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter. It's like anyone can hold a position, but true leadership, it's about using your power to dig for truth, even when it's hidden.
Right, even when it's uncomfortable.
Exactly.
That's huge, especially today.
Oh, tell me about it.
Everyone's got an agenda, information overload.
Right.
How do you, as a leader, sift through all that noise
Yeah.
to get to what's real?
Well, Proverbs seems to suggest it's a responsibility,
Yeah.
a duty to go beyond the surface.
And it's not just uncovering the truth for yourself.
No, not at all.
Verse 5 goes on to say, "Take away the wicked from before the king, and his throne shall be established in righteousness."
It's about a leader creating an environment
Okay.
where righteousness can flourish,
Yeah.
where honesty and justice are the foundation.
So it's bigger than just one person's actions. It's like setting a tone, a culture,
Exactly.
where those values are upheld. Now, this might seem like it's just about kings and kingdoms, but think about the leaders in your own life. Teachers, mentors, community organizers, parents, even they
Yeah.
all have this responsibility to cultivate an environment
For sure.
that brings out the best in others.
Absolutely. And that idea of cultivating a healthy environment, whether it's a kingdom or a classroom or even your own mind,
Oh, yeah.
is something we'll see a lot in these Proverbs.
So we've got this theme of inner strength coming through. We've got this call for leaders to seek truth, to foster righteousness.
Mhm.
But Proverbs 25 doesn't stop there. It also throws out these gems that just feels universally applicable, even today. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold and pictures of silver.
Ooh, that imagery.
Right.
It's not just about choosing the right words.
Yeah.
It's about the timing, the impacts, like a perfectly placed work of art.
It makes you really think about the weight of your words. Are you adding value or just noise?
That's such a good question. And are you speaking with a genuine connection or trying to manipulate?
Right.
It's about intention and impact.
And then we have this passage about showing kindness to enemies. Proverbs 25. 21-22 says, "If thine enemy be hungry, give him bread to eat, and if he be thirsty, give him water to drink." 22. "For thou shalt heap coals of fire upon his head, and the Lord shall reward thee." Okay, this one feels kind of intense.
Oh, yeah. This one gets people talking.
Yeah.
Especially that phrase, coals of fire.
Right.
Some people, they see it as inflicting shame on the enemy.
Okay.
Like, you're so kind, it highlights their wrongdoing. Others think it's about sparking change within them. Like that kindness, maybe it leads to repentance
Hmm.
or a change in their actions.
Either way, it's pretty radical.
Oh, for sure.
Like, The best weapon against someone who's wronged you is compassion.
Yeah.
It totally goes against that eye for an eye thing.
It does, and it makes you think, what's the purpose behind your actions?
Right.
You seeking revenge, or are you hoping for transformation, even reconciliation?
I'm already feeling challenged, and we're only on chapter 25.
Oh, we're just getting started.
One more from this chapter before we move on. Proverbs 25:28. He that have no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls.
This one, it really speaks to that inner strength.
Yeah.
A city without walls, it's vulnerable,
Right.
exposed, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you lack self-control, if you let your emotions run wild,
Yeah.
you're open to all sorts of negative stuff,
Yeah.
destructive behavior.
So the greatest enemy you face might actually be yourself,
Maybe so.
that lack of self-mastery.
It's a powerful thought.
It makes you think, what are the walls you need to build to protect yourself from your own inner saboteurs?
And what's trying to break through those walls, right? Internal forces, external forces.
Oh, yeah, good point.
It's about vigilance, constantly checking those defenses.
Okay, listeners, I hope you're taking notes.
Me too.
This is just the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a lot more wisdom to uncover as we go through Proverbs. Next up, we're tackling chapter 26. It goes headfirst into fools and how to handle them.
Oh, boy.
Those tricky encounters.
Buckle up. So inner strength, right? Chapter 6 jumps right into a battleground where that strength is tested, dealing with fools.
Whoa.
And it starts off with what seems like a contradiction. Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
lay it on me.
Proverbs 26, 4-5. First it says, answer not a fool according to his folly, lest thou also be like unto him.
Makes sense.
Right. Sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
But then verse 5, it flips. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own conceit.
So do you engage or walk away?
Exactly. It's like,
A head spin.
and that's what's so brilliant about Proverbs, you know.
Okay.
It's not a rule book, black and white. It makes you think critically,
Yeah.
develop discernment.
Okay.
Those verses, they seem contradictory, but
Yeah.
they're two sides of the same coin. Sometimes you engage, you just get dragged down to their
Gross.
level, but sometimes a pointed response, it exposes their folly, maybe even stops them from misleading others.
So it's like choosing your battles.
Yes.
Knowing when to stand your ground, when to save your energy. It's like that saying, never argue with a fool. Onlookers may not be able to tell the difference.
Exactly. Sometimes the best response is just disengaging, letting their actions speak for themselves.
Okay.
Which brings us to one of the most memorable verses.
Uh-oh.
And let's be honest, slightly nauseating verses in this chapter.
All right, hit me.
Proverbs 26:11. As a dog returneth to his vomit, so a fool returneth to his folly.
Okay, that's vivid. It sticks with you, though.
It does, right.
It drives home the point.
Fools, they get stuck in those patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Same mistakes over and over.
You can't force someone to change, can you?
No, you can offer wisdom, try to guide them, but the
Yeah.
choice is theirs.
Ultimately.
Sometimes the most compassionate thing is
Sure.
to step back, let them face the consequences.
So how do we apply this to, the fools we meet in our own lives?
Oh, good question.
Because, come on, we all deal with difficult people.
Right. All the time.
That coworker undermining the team,
Mm-hmm.
or that relative who loves the drama.
Proverbs, it's not just ancient history.
Right.
It's a toolkit for relationships.
Okay.
It encourages you to build that inner strength,
Yeah.
that discernment, to see foolish behavior,
Okay.
and then choose how you respond.
Right.
Sometimes silence is best.
Yeah.
Sometimes a firm boundary. Sometimes you just got to walk away.
For your own good.
Exactly, for your own sanity.
I'm starting to see how these proverbs, even the harsh ones,
Yeah,
can be so relevant today.
they are.
And speaking of harsh, chapter 26 doesn't let up. Calling out destructive behavior, it tackles slander and gossip with some seriously strong language,
Oh, it gets intense.
like Proverbs 26:22. The words of a talebearer are as wounds, and they go down into the innermost parts of the belly.
Whoa.
Gossip doesn't just scratch the surface. It cuts deep.
It leaves scars.
That can poison relationships.
Exactly.
Makes you think about that ripple effect,
Yeah.
Like one little comment
Yeah.
can have a lasting impact, especially when it gets repeated.
And amplified, yeah.
And it makes you wonder, what's motivating the gossip?
Right. Are they seeking attention, trying to gain power? Or are they just clueless?
The damage they're doing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's all of the above.
Could be.
But regardless, Proverbs is clear. Gossip is destructive,
Yeah.
something to avoid if you want to live with integrity.
And wisdom, absolutely.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Dive into chapter 27. This one focuses on friendships, family, personal growth.
All right, sounds good.
What jumps out at you?
Well, one of the most famous verses here is Proverbs 27.17. Iron sharpeneth iron. So a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend.
Okay.
It's a powerful metaphor for true friendship.
It's like your closest friends, they're not just there for the good times. They challenge you, they push you, help you become a better version of yourself.
Exactly. Think about the relationships where you feel truly seen, understood, but also challenged, supported.
Yeah.
Those are the friends who are like iron, sharpening you.
Making you stronger.
Yeah, your intellect, your character, your worldview.
It makes you realize how important it is to be around people who are committed to growth for themselves and for you.
Absolutely. But then, right after that verse about iron sharpening iron, we get this warning.
Uh-oh.
Proverbs 27.1 scene. He that passeth by and meddleth with strife belonging not to him is like one that taketh a dog by the ears.
Oh.
It's like knowing when to get involved and when to
Yeah.
stay out of it.
A delicate balance.
It is, right?
Yeah.
You want to be supportive.
Yeah.
But you got to recognize not every situation needs your help.
Okay.
Sometimes the best thing you can do is just listen.
Yeah.
No judgment.
Just a shoulder to cry on.
Trust that they can handle it.
It's about respecting boundaries. Even in close friendships.
Absolutely.
There needs to be space.
For individual growth, yeah.
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Exactly.
Sometimes just being there is enough.
Being present, offering support
Yeah.
without trying to control things.
And then chapter 27.
Yeah.
It gives us these insights into another relationship, the one we have with ourselves.
Well, interesting.
Verses 23, 27.
Okay.
We get this advice about tending to your flocks and herds.
Be thou diligent to know the state of thy flocks, and look well to thy herds. 24, for riches are not forever, and doth the crown endure to every generation. But there's a deeper meaning here.
Totally. It's not just about sheep.
No.
It's about your inner world. Your thoughts, emotions, habits.
Your flocks.
They need constant care.
Right. If you're neglecting your mental and emotional being,
Yeah.
chasing external stuff, you're missing the point.
The true wealth.
Is inside.
Cultivating that rich inner life.
Yeah, finding purpose and peace.
That goes beyond material things.
Exactly. So it's about investing in yourself.
Nurturing your growth
Spiritual, emotional growth.
alongside any material success.
Right. True fulfillment comes from within.
From what you own or what people think of you.
And that leads us perfectly into chapters 28 and 29,
Okay.
which really dive into righteousness, wealth, and social justice.
Ooh, getting heavy.
How do you build a life of meaning?
Yeah,
Not just a life of stuff and status.
that's the big question.
Yeah, that's what these chapters are wrestling with. Chapters 28 and 29, they really lay it out there.
Oh, yeah.
The difference between chasing outward success
Mm.
versus that inner strength righteousness.
Okay.
Proverbs 28.1, it says, the wicked flee when no man pursueth, but the righteous are bold as a lion. It's like real confidence comes from living by your values. You don't have to look over your shoulder
Right.
when you know you're acting with integrity.
Exactly. And you see that all through these chapters.
Okay.
This idea that righteousness, it's not just rules,
Uh-huh.
it's an inner compass.
Guiding your actions.
Gives you that strength that you can't shake.
But it's tough sometimes. You see people getting ahead, through dishonesty or just playing dirty.
Right. It's
Proverbs 28.11 calls that out. The rich man is wise in his own conceit, but the poor that have understanding searcheth him out.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's like a warning about pride.
Especially when it comes with wealth and status.
Yeah, you get caught up in your success.
It's easy to do.
You start thinking you have all the answers.
But real wisdom, it often comes from listening to those who have less,
Those who've struggled.
who've had to build resilience.
And then Proverbs 29.23. It just drives it home. A man's pride shall bring him low, but honor shall uphold the humble in spirit. Humility. It's not weakness.
No,
It's strength.
a willingness to learn.
Even when you've made it.
It's like admitting we all have blind spots.
Yeah, we can learn from others.
True honor. It's about service.
Not just promoting yourself.
These chapters also hit on something really relevant today.
Yeah.
Social justice. Proverbs 29.7, it says, the righteous considereth the cause of the poor, But the wicked regardeth not to know it.
That's a call to action.
It is right.
Engage with those who need it most.
Especially in a world where it's easy to get comfy.
To just focus on our own little bubble.
This proverb, it's like a challenge.
Look beyond that.
See the systems that keep people down?
Think about how you're using what you have.
Yeah, your resources,
Huh.
your voice, your influence,
To make things more fair.
righteousness. It's
Mhm.
more than just being good yourself.
It goes outward.
It impacts others.
Especially those who are struggling.
And then we get to chapter 30.
Yeah, a bit of a shift here. Agur, he brings a different perspective. He's not a king, a leader. He's just a man, humbly admitting his limits.
And he asked something very specific from God.
In verses 7 to 9, he says, "Remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me. 9, lest I be full and deny thee and say, who is the Lord? Or lest I be poor and steal and take the name of my God in vain."
Wow, he doesn't want the extremes.
Right.
Not wealth, not poverty.
He sees the danger in both.
Yeah, they can both lead you astray.
Make you forget what truly matters.
It's about being content
Having enough.
without always needing more.
He gets it. Real fulfillment. It's about your connection with God.
Not what you have or your status.
It makes you think, are we chasing the wrong things?
Good question.
And then the grand finale, chapter 31.
The famous virtuous woman.
This passage, it's often seen as the ideal woman,
Right.
but it's so much more.
What do you mean?
It's about strength, resilience,
Okay.
resourcefulness, compassion.
This woman, she's not just waiting around.
Real-
She's building a business, taking care of family,
Speaking up for those in need.
all with grace and wisdom.
Proverbs 31.30, it puts it perfectly. Favor is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised.
True beauty comes from within,
Aligning your life with what you believe.
living with purpose,
It's about those inner qualities.
kindness, integrity.
Yeah, that connection to something bigger.
Wow, what a journey.
We covered a lot.
From leading well to dealing with fools, the power of real friendship,
Building inner strength.
living righteously.
And through it all, the key takeaway for me, wisdom, it's not just knowing stuff.
Right.
It's about using what you know
Making good choices,
that lead to a better life,
deeper connection
a sense of purpose.
that gets you through anything.
Exactly.
So listeners, go back to Proverbs.
yeah, read these chapters again.
Let it sink in.
See how it applies to your own life.
What speaks to you?
What challenges you?
What wisdom can you find?
Keep digging deep.
Keep seeking that wisdom.
That leads to a truly meaningful life.